Three Sages and a Time Machine, episode 13. Today, our topic is truly one of a kind. You know, those topics I'm really excited about. I mean, I'm excited about all our topics. I mean, so far we dove in so many different aspects of history and culture and society, right? Because we're always trying to uncover the mysteries of our past and trying to connect with our ancient with our antiquities and with our ancient knowledge and with our memories, right? Because I'm convinced. I mean, our motto over here is humanity is a civilization that suffers from amnesia, and we're gonna bring back memory, right? So we're shedding light into the mysteries of history so people can remember who they really are and embrace this beautiful thing called life, right? In this human civilization, by finally being aware of our incredible heritage, about the experience that we're kind of encapsulating in this body without even realizing it. So for us, it's of course always a pleasure to dive into these conspiracy theories, into these ancient knowledge boxes, and to uncover more and more from the past. And Three Sages in a Time Machine, I couldn't be more happier to run this show again, because I missed you. I missed the chat. I missed this community. I missed the two fellow bigots that are about to show up in a second. I missed having these conversations and also kind of arguing and fighting and discussing with people back and forth. This is beautiful. We need a healthy discourse about culture, about society, about history, and if we can just add 0.1% to this discussion, to this discourse, and shed some light, right, into the darkness, and help people to catch up with their past, and then we have done our job. So without any further ado, let's jump in today's episode. It's episode 13. Yes, the mystical number. And truly, this is a mystical episode. We're going to talk about the most dangerous books in the world right after this. So let's see what's cooking. Without any further ado, I know you want to have them. I want to have them. I want to see them. I want to hear them. Let's welcome to the show Ryan, Roger, Athay, and Dragon Slayer commentaries. How are you, good bigots?
I'm doing very well, Coach, and it's great to see 1/4 of the bigot verse here, ladies and gentlemen.
The bigot verse.
Yes. The one quarter of Saturday Night Hypnosis, the least popular ones in this case.
We're the outcasts somehow. I don't know. Yeah. Right?
Hey, we're the epic outcasts, and at the end we're gonna be talking about some very interesting topics. That I'm actually surprised that they're back at it again, Coach. With the whole craziness with Tolkien and George Orwell. This is like round 3 at this point. Over the last
yes, it is round 3. And that's why I'm so happy, because, of course, I can't wait for your fire. But, yeah, they are always trying this, right? They always try to submerge the good material, and they always try to suppress the real information. They always try to kind of defame what's valuable, and we've seen these tactics over and over again, also with the latest election thrill over here in the United States. We're going to talk about all that, but first of all, give yourself the opportunity to create an even larger forum by introducing your good sirs and your content to the wonderful creative community over here at the COACHMC studio.
Go on, Dragon.
Yeah, of course. Well, guys, I am obviously Dragon from Dragon Slayer Commentaries, aka the Tangent King of all Tangent Kings, as it should be, and I make sarcastic commentary basically on the things that are occurring in Hollywood, but also sometimes in gaming if it's really spicy. But honestly, I mostly stick to the Hollywood side, since that's where my passion lies. But that's what I do, and as always, I'm glad to be hanging out with the one.
Is it just Coach. Me? To me, you're breaking up, Dragon. You're breaking up once in a while. Is it just me that? Or
what? No,
is it?
Well, I can hear Drag. The thing is, it's either Coach is too loud or Dragon is too quiet.
I can't. It can't be. I'm literally right here. Hold on. I should be good now, right? What the fuck?
Should be good. Okay.
Y'all should hear me just fine. Okay. I mean, hopefully. Am I good? Can you hear me, chat? Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me? We're good.
Yeah, let us
Can't
know.
really
Let us
ask
know.
a chat that doesn't exist, Dragon.
Otherwise,
Well, there are some people in the chat. Stop it.
They're trickling in slowly, you bastard.
No,
Oh,
good,
man.
good.
Meet
Dragon clear,
yours,
but Coach
R.
Mike is
Martin.
clipping. Okay. Maybe it's a bit too loud, maybe a bit too
Yeah.
close. You let us know. Good folks out there. If it's better now, I'm
It's
trying
only
to keep
the
a bit
power
more
of sexy
distance and my
voice, okay?
passion under control.
Don't be mad, Brett.
Thanks so much,
But no, yeah.
Pat. Thanks so much for going on. Thank you. Yeah, go on, Dragon.
No. But really, I'm doing well. I'm glad the show is back on. And guys, it's about time we start having fun talking shit about these crazy people that are trying to destroy good literature. So I'm going to stop talking because we want to get right into it.
All right. Ryan Roger Athe, please take it away, good sir.
Well, hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well, and it's great to see you all watching today. My name is Ryan Rogerathe. I'm the host and founder of Reality Based, and you're seeing me in 480p, hence Mr. 480p. It's always a pleasure to be on Three Sages and a Time Machine. My replacement isn't here yet, so he's not really much of a replacement.
Thank you
Is he?
for following
My
a completely unreliable person.
Hey, look. The last person I recommended to this show ended up dying, so I don't think it can get any worse than
maybe
that.
it's
Allegedly.
me. Maybe
Allegedly.
it's me. Our
Don't worry.
prayers go out to the dark Hobie house elf, right? And hopefully it's Dubby, man.
Don't
keep
mind
in
that.
there.
That's just my files. I'll just put them over there. It's strange. I've interacted with 3 content creators in 3 years who are now dead.
Oh my God, you are right. Damn.
Yep. Dobby, Cardinal Sin, and I'm forgetting his name. He had the thing that Stephen Hawking had. I'll get back to you on that. And he eventually died, unfortunately. But these things do happen, folks. But don't worry. We will keep on going and keep on growing. Now back to Coach.
Yeah, we carry the torch, everybody.
Absolutely. We're the flame of
A
enlightenment.
legendary Tron. That's his
legendary
name.
Tron.
Oh, yeah.
You remembered something. What is
Yes.
wrong? Wow, man. So, no, but to be a problematic white guy is probably joining us later. I mean, he always takes a nap before the show because he wants to be ready to fire. And so probably hasn't heard his alarm, going off. And maybe he's joining us later. But nonetheless, we're going to dive into today's topic. Man, I've brought something. This is really good stuff. And I mean, this is also quite, it's quite contemporary, right? It's quite actual because, hey, your beautiful UK government just released one of those jokes just recently. Ryan, what is happening over there on your crazy island? I mean, I thought over here American politics is crazy, but what really is going down in the UK is probably even more scandalous, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. On many fronts, what's going on in the United Kingdom is scandalous. The least of our problems is related to targeting works from such figures as Orwell, Huxley. I forgot his first
Aldous
name.
Huxley.
Huxley. And in even the likes of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien, their works are getting targeted for being problematic. I mean, it is really the least of our concerns in regards to censoring old books and great stories. But to give you all some context, folks, recently on the 4th of July of 2024, of all the days to hold an election, the left-wing Labour Party, with one of the lowest voter support in recent times, got one of the biggest majorities in recent times. So it was a perfect storm. Least amount of support with a record majority because the opposition was split down the middle between rhino bastards and actual conservatives, to use an American colloquialism. So that's why we are where we are, and it's going to be like that, unfortunately, for the next 5 years, whether we like it or not.
Well, I don't know. I'm sure. Don't you have a direct law? Like, don't you have like this old law? This is old, the old direct law that you can actually get rid of a parliament if 75% of the population is against. I remember something that you have some sort of a special law, like in Switzerland. It's quite similar that you guys actually have the power. But hey, your prime minister just recently said whoever tries to attempt to doing that gets incarcerated, like in a very good democracy. It's very interesting. You guys are like Germany, basically, right now, and what happened also to the United States. It seems like you guys have been hijacked, right, by some sort of a virus. I mean, of course, we will have also an episode on Three Sages and the Time Machine Creative Community talking about who originated the woke virus, this absurd Marxist, left, satanic, hyper-materialistic, totalitarian regime idea that is now spreading like a fungus out of Davos, right, out of Switzerland over the whole planet. It's taking control of some of the biggest leaders of some of the most powerful countries that also have nuclear rockets and very dangerous weapons under there. Not only nuclear, but very dangerous weapons. And if we should be concerned, or if with the election of Trump and everything that we're doing over here, where the truth actually resides, or at least a more objective truth, which is called the internet, right, where we try to fight for sanity and common sense and for what we deem to be healthy culture that should be further on perpetuated during our lifetime here on this planet in order to keep a sanity and a balance of forces alive, right? But it seems like that your country, like the UK especially, has been like hit probably the hardest and the most severe, because they even came to conclude and to release an official statement. Now get this, if there is one thing Great Britain has exported besides drugs, arms, and mass manipulation, if there is anything that you successfully exported to the world besides fish and chips, it is Shakespeare. Like, undoubtedly, if there's anything that we can connect to the UK, it's the works of William Shakespeare. Now, whether he was a real British guy, of course, again, there's another episode for Three Sages in a Time Machine. And by the way, let me just say hello to Sonia, hello to Pat. Hello to Rio. Hello to we have also Scooby Pop 01. Scooby Pop. I'm sorry, Poop. Because you know why? Because I had a German client today, so I'm still in the we
English is his third language.
I'm sorry, Scooby Pop 01. I'm sorry. I was still
Coach.
heavily influenced by the
to one of our
today.
wonderful SNH gals.
He thinks
You're
in
absolutely-
2/3 axis, German and Italian.
See, now she's mad. Come on.
I'm sorry. Puppet. My favorite puppet is you. You should know it by now. But hey,
there
seriously,
you go.
guys. I mean, this is one of the most insane and most hilarious and most lunatic decisions that I've ever seen a government taken. Like putting really Shakespeare and. Into the area of dangerous literature, because allegedly, like of course Tolkien and Lewis Carroll and also of course George Orwell, it would encourage far right behavior and mindset. And this is also the beginning of our today's show. Like, there's always been this incredible thing going on with dictators and totalitarian systems, that the first thing that they target is culture, is literature, right? You need to get rid of the comic books. We need to get rid of the graphic novels. We need to get rid of the books. That's why all these libraries, and we covered this also during our shows, all these libraries went up in flames. And now they're trying to do the same. They're trying to burn our books. They're trying to stigmatize us for indulging into this literature. They try to put us into a niche where public consent would not go, in order for us to be, the outcasts, in order for us to be this conspiracy theories and whatnot, in order to ridicule us to a point so that our voice won't be heard, and therefore our truth won't be kind of perceived. And so they're just trying to silence the truth by somehow putting these books under such a bad light. But I want to hear your takes on it, because I find this is absolutely incredible.
Let's get Dragon Slayer's perspective first.
Yeah, no. In terms of Tolkien, at least, okay, but also Shakespeare. But specifically, my orientation and focus is going to be on Tolkien. I still, to this day, cannot understand why the usually this is a far left that's obsessed with believing that Tolkien was automatically far right simply because he had a Catholic upbringing and he was very dedicated to his religion, right? Because you can see it obviously in his entire set of works. Okay? And sometimes I feel that these far leftists, if I'm being honest, they see a story that has substance, that has just the right amount of tension, but it's not too dramatic, and it just says things as they are, right? So like the core thing of Tolkien's Middle Earth is the fact that it's an ever-changing world, that even though you have all these negative events occur, there are still things that are preserved, right? And you see this throughout the entire set of works, especially with the elven culture, all the cultures in general, right? But especially the culture of the good guys. They always work hard to preserve their legacy and make sure that the future generations are reminded of the tragedies of the past, so that they are not done again by mistake, right?
Right.
And when you think about it, that's actually a very good thing. That is the whole purpose of why historical records exist in the first place, so we can learn to not make the same mistakes. Because Aragorn knew about Isildur's mistake, okay, and the mistakes of his ancestors when they were kings, he now understands why his role is even more important and why he has such a high ceiling of responsibility that he needs to embrace, okay? If he did not have this concept, the character would fall off the map into irrelevance, into just a joke of like a just generic archetype hero that is going to become the king after he wins, right? This hero has purpose. All the characters, as a matter of fact, have a purpose and a role in mind that they need to fill, which I believe angers these crazy people the most, because they see all these characters, they're incredibly diverse, but not their definition of diverse, right? They don't have the same skin color as them, they may not have the same values as them, and they see that shit as a threat that must be dealt with. And that is why you've seen the butchering that occurs with Amazon, which, you know, whatever. I will say it, rings of power, fuck them. But
yes.
other than that, let's focus on the book part. His whole philosophy is not about propaganda whatsoever. If you actually read the works and you read books made by scholars such as Tom Shippey or David Day, it will become very clear to anybody who is a true fan of Tolkien that the professor, while he had certain things that were baseline, he also was actually quite open to taking in other perspectives to broaden his horizons and create Middle Earth to the point that we all enjoy it to this day, long after the death of him and his son. Okay? And he took a lot of inspiration from pagan myths, if you didn't know.
Yes,
so
of
for
course.
those of you that don't know anyway. And a lot of his characters and weapons and names are inspirations from those mythological tales that he was
Old
so
Irish
obsessed.
language, absolutely.
And language. It's the most
this
important part.
So a government report, this comment by Jack Frost 1 is I think nailing it. So a government report warns against reading books that warn against tyrannical governments. That's really a special kind of irony, right?
Yeah, it is. It is.
And the
because-
report that justified this crackdown, this censorship campaign, was attempting to, you know, utilize broad stroke tactics, which is to cobble together all sorts of potentially problematic stories and manuals and things like that, and create a false equivalency around them all. That's why they're all being lumped together. It sounds ridiculous, but it's part of a narrative control agenda to paint all opposition to the administration with a broad brush, enabling a potential censorship campaign to start off in the future. Something like like this, folks, is a way of testing the waters in the United Kingdom. And the reaction of that testing then leads to, oh, what are we going to do as a government? Are we going to press ahead with this? Or are we going to take a step back and reassess things? That's why this has been released. Just a simple test of the people's will and resolve.
Now, the reason, and this is really hilarious, right? Because of course the government of the UK was then targeted by harsh criticism from fans, but also from, I have to say, but from scholars all around the world. And then they released a later statement that I haven't found, but I know this is exactly what they said. It's also mentioned in some of the subreddits and conversations on the internet, but I haven't found that article, which was published in, I think it was April last year. It was crazy. So what they said,
recent articles actually, even for this year, but they were back in June. I'll send one in the private chat.
Yes,
this one is hilarious because
no, but this is really cool. Like what they said was the fact that they kind of tagged authors like C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and Orwell as triggers for right-wing behavioral pattern. It was because they were conducting a study on how to prevent internal terrorism in the UK and not triggering the Muslim community of Great Britain. And so therefore what is considered as one of the core, like, literature pieces and core, like one of the big foundations, like the authors that really represent the foundation of British literature and therefore for British culture, they are now considered like to be not welcome, person non grata at the big diversified Vogue party that the government represents, and now that they should be ousted like from the back door in order to not trigger the Muslim population, but especially the extremist Muslim population that somehow would feel harmed by this. And so that is, to me, that is the pinnacle that explains how these delusional mindsets work, right? They are so caught up in their delusion and these fake projections that they are creating these ultra complicated structures of thought that don't make any sense if you just kind of simply like look at them, like simply it's like, is this serious? So you want to suppress my literature in order to favor the mindset of someone else who has an extremist fundamentalist worldview in my country and is considered actually a guest, to not trigger him to kind of expose himself as the person that he is? So you want to sell others that he's actually a better person by suppressing what's good about your culture, about yourself, about your identity. And that, to me, is like, it's really shooting the deer in the dark, right?
It's a pincer strategy. I mean, on one hand, it's to appease an extremist element. And on the other hand, it's to trigger another extremist element. I mean, the United Kingdom does have a lot of problems with Islamic terrorism. And it also has problems with alleged, as it would be, far-right extremism. And that does evolve into terrorism, and that's the pincer strategy. This situation is designed to appease one group and trigger the other into attacking the appeased group.
I 100% agree. Let's take a look at what our good Sir Douglas Murray said about this.
Will it work?
Will it work? That's the other question.
Will it work? Yes. But it will definitely annoy you with an ad.
Fuck you, crypto wankers, crypto wankers.
The whole story of America is being reframed under our feet. They are making us have to be defensive about Thomas Jefferson. Instead of regarding Jefferson rightly as one of not just the greatest figures in American history, one of the greatest figures in world history. Instead of that, we have to do this, well, he did own slaves. I mean, that wasn't... And before you know it, the main story of Jefferson has been changed. And this is what, by the way, papers like the New York Times, famously with the 1619 Project, this is what they said they want to do. They said they want to reframe the American story. They want to rewrite the American story. That's what they're doing. And that's what Americans have to realize is the game that's on. Remember at Mount Rushmore last year, the CNN correspondent, when they went live, said that the president's going to kick off Independence Day with a speech in front of 2 slave owners on stolen land.
That's right.
That's what we're talking about. They think all of America is stolen land. They think every single person who founded this country is rotten. If you believe that, you believe in a totally different vision of America than most American people, because most American people do not want to think badly of this country. Most American people rightly want to think very well of this country because they should think well of it. They should think well of the founding fathers. They should think well of the Constitution. This isn't a little bit
I can
of
hear you breathe,
detail in
Coach.
history. This is the biggest bit of
Hypno says the same thing.
we've ever had.
That was
founding
intentional.
fathers like this. People should be proud of this. And
Damn it, Coach.
Right, yeah, Hypno says the same thing. I can stand you hearing breathing. I say, what the fuck, man?
That's all we hear.
Look, we got someone on the show.
There we go.
Dang, he's here. He put a GIF on his picture.
I
Nice,
do
man.
apologize.
It's all good.
Time zones are tricky, and my laptop is a piece of shit.
We were just heating up, man. We were just starting the engine. Hey, problematic white guy. Thank you so much for joining the show. Let us know who you are and where we can find you really quick for the creative community that doesn't know you.
I like to make fashionably late entrances from time to time, and I've been napping, and I evidently put a 5 instead of a 4, which when you're in Central Time Zone, we start at 6 Eastern, is a little bit after time.
Right.
And then I woke up to my computer being completely crashed out, and it took me like about 5 to 10 minutes to get it to actually load up. If I disappear, then it's just because I have shitty equipment.
He's alive, chat. That's what matters.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what matters. He's alive.
That's right.
And just to get you up to speed, thank you so much for joining. We're discussing, this slightly totalitarian move from the UK government as tagging authors like C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and Orwell as far-right thinkers or triggers to extremist or even terrorist behavior. But then we also found out that the UK government wasn't just thinking of themselves. No, they issued a later statement where they tried to sort of wrangle this argumentation into the box by saying that it was just to protect the Muslim, more extremist community that is right now a guest on British territory, to not let them think that the British would actually endorse the ideas of C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, and Orwell for it's just the British basic, right? And so therefore it was just to protect them. That's why they're tagging them as extremists.
How long has far right meant totally correct in Europe? I'm assuming that's what you meant, right? Like,
For
so they're
about
totally correct?
110 years, John.
Okay, just making sure.
Dang. Yeah. No, but we were actually talking about like just the obsession that some far left elements have against Tolkien and George Orwell. Any writers similar to them?
Dragon Slayer. I can put this clearly. Our opposition
They
hate
George?
America. They
do.
That
hate
is the quickest
Western
route to it.
civilization.
Yeah.
They hate all the great stories that the West have made. And the past 60 years has been the march of progressive politics pissing all over our populations. We've gone from gayness being illegal for it being done on the street every June.
Yeah. I would have preferred it
Wow.
being more like, not
Quite
done on
amazing.
the
We've gone from lobotomies to sex change operations. We've come full circle in 70 years.
And
but
you-
Ryan, think of this. At least Asian massage parlors are everywhere.
But please, but please enjoy who liked
Robin
this post. Look at who liked, of course, Lord of the Rings being far right material.
Remember
Of course,
this woman?
That's why, Coach, you've got folks like Douglas Murray, a queer who is right wing. I mean, 50 to 60
course.
years ago, the idea of a queerosexual
That's so true.
conservative, he
That's
would
so
have been
true.
hung from the nearest
that's
lamppost.
an excellent point.
No, Ryan.
Yes.
you have
In
to-
all seriousness, though, in exposing the progressives, in exposing the censors, we are seeing a massive backlash in regards to legacy media and with the more progressive, insane, left-wing ideologues. And I think we need more pushback, especially in the years to come, especially against this mad cow who looks like Brie Larson now.
Yes, they all look the
Oh,
same.
God.
They're interchangeable. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're hollow, shallow objects. No, go ahead,
I
sir.
prefer to say queermosexual with the M because queerosexual is like they prefer it without the M. So I make it a point to put it in there because they are queermos, and
Oh,
I find that to be more kind of like degrading and gets under their skin because what they try to do is degrading and gets under people's skin. So fair is fair. Treat others like you'd like to be treated. So don't say queero. That's some stupid gay shit. Like say queermo. That's totally based. Queerosexuals.
But to be honest, homosexuals, I met also a bunch of them in recent times, and they were all voting for Trump. They were all voting for Trump. They were
'Cause it
all
takes
voting for. They said we are fed up with this hyper loud bullshit. It's not representing us. We don't want all that attention. We want to get out of the line. We just want to live our fucking lives, right? Just let us be wherever we are. We are not, and this just, it's been just these hyper progressive, super accelerated liberal hive minds in those populated dense areas, like the cities that basically are blue, also thanks to illegal voters that have kind of perpetrating this narrative. The same thing in Great Britain, the same thing also in Germany, and the same thing now is also happening to Italy. And I have my my watchtowers, my good witness of Jehovah watchtowers. I'm joking. I have them all over the place. Right? Yes.
What?
And they're all reporting back to me and it's saying, hey, this is it's one big scheme. They're always starting with culture. They're always starting with graphic novels. They're always starting with books, right? Totalitarian systems always need to eliminate books and knowledge first. Inspiration, ideas, images and also like real gnosis, what we talked last time, right? When Leon, took off on his personal tangent vendetta. But yes, gnosis, the real knowledge, right?
You have to forgive Leon. He can't help himself when
Of course, I love it.
Leon's just
I don't care.
typical autistic bro. We just
Yeah,
love
he can do whatever the fuck he wants.
You got the Tangent King. You've got the Tangent. You got the Tangent King. I didn't make.
You got the tangent.
That I made. You got the man who never shuts up, and you had the anarchistic cross-dresser. Okay?
Right. Well, to Leon's credit, I mean, like I said, I was speaking, and so like for as much as like
You
I
worked
may be
in a pawn shop. You
for
like
as much as all right, and Ryan's doing it right now. For as much as people may assume that I'm the one who talks over people and this and that, Leon has never missed. He has never missed an opportunity to start trying to shout me down and shoot holes in everything I'm saying, which is hilarious because he's always talking about I believe in free speech until I start speaking. Love you, Leon, but you need to work on that.
I can't wait to have his take next week when he's hopefully joining us again.
I want to see Rachel Mad Cow go coach. Can you make that possible?
Yes. Rachel is doomed. Like Rachel is doomed, like the legacy media system, and they know it. They are making less in numbers than Timcast. She's a worm tongue. She is a Slytherin, like the worst kind of Slytherin, right? She is a snake tongue. She is absolutely incapable to formulate anything human, authentic, or real for herself. Everything she does as a shallow entity and a hollow head that she is to kind of regurgitate everything that the system, the machine tells her to say. And if that is that Lord of the Rings is far right, mindset, then hey, so be it. By the way, JD Vance, our new vice president, he put a like on Tolkien, right? He likes Lord of the Rings, and he talked about it. And of course he does it because, like what Dragon said, what you missed, PWG, is that mythology ultimately is the songs from the past that we need to keep alive. It's a tradition, whether it's a written tradition or oral tradition. It's a tradition that we need. Yes, over time, of course, it's distorted and will change, and probably it's inaccurate as it was thousands of years before. But that's not the point. The point is that we care about something.
Right. Well, Beowulf was kind of like the oldest oral tradition story. One of them, and when you think about what has been achieved in the last 150 years here, in our silly little part of history. Lord of the Rings, that's a seminal work. Same thing with the works of Orwell, and so to see stuff like this, C.S. Lewis, also another, great writer that you can extrapolate a lot from those stories, and who you are when you read them, kind of what you're going through, it will present different things to you. And maybe that's the issue, is a lot of these fucktards that we're talking about are, so entitled to begin with that when they read something like War is Peace, they actually think that, that actually sounds like a good idea.
Yes.
I mean,
you know what? I feel like it's almost silly because it's such a clear scheme what you have in mind when you start targeting books, right, and culture and all that, and start calling out authors. It's so clear what you could at least try to camouflage. I mean, that half-baked statement a month later about some, I don't know, like this crazy theory that it was just to kind of prevent any type of backlash from the extremist wing of the Muslim religion if they would, encounter people who defend Tolkien. Like this whole argument that they kind of produced later, it was completely not making sense, right? And so therefore, it's so clear what they have in mind. It's and to a point, that's actually a good thing, because if they are not able to cover up the tracks anymore, if they're not able to camouflage their real intentions, if they come to a point where they're so sloppy in how they want to, push their agenda forward, that means to me that the drive, the buying power behind this, delusional virus is slowing down significantly, and they can't cover all the holes. They can, cover all the bases. They're losing manpower, they're losing energy, they're losing ideas, they're running out of momentum.
That creates the desperation, Coach, and then the tyrants expose themselves. I mean, talk about Orwell's insight. You just showcased an example of it. CCTV cameras absolutely everywhere. It's as if elements of these great stories are bleeding in to reality, especially 1984. I mean, there was this argument in academic. Sure. There was this argument in academic circles of what was going to be more like the future. 1984,
Equilibrium, beautiful movie, by the way. Yes,
and there were those who thought initially it was going to be Brave New World, but in recent decades, it's more and more like 1984, and you're seeing more manifestations of it, rather than the mind being replaced with loyalty. The people themselves, the body, is literally being replaced.
Yes,
more and more. It's always 1984. It's kind of the situation. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Oh well, I was just gonna kind of riff on the whole concept of the way that
I'm eating white food.
Ooh, nice.
Oh man,
does that mean you'll become more transparent than you already are?
You are what you eat, Ryan. You pasty white man. Right. Of course, I say that as an even pastier white man. So,
man,
maybe. But yeah, no, with the 1984, they actually do these days get their 3 minutes hate. And it's all just it's aimed at the orange man, or just kind of I guess right now, I'm completely detached from reality. They just get to go off about that for a few minutes every day, but they reinforce their baggage and kind of everything that was spoke about in there. They're all for a ministry of truths. Quite literally, they tried to create one during the Biden administration.
Amazing.
What are fact checkers other than a downsized version of the Ministry of Truth?
Exactly. And that's the. I was just gonna say, these people who consider themselves the arbiters of what is truth, for years, I always had to deal with people going what did Snopes say? It's Snopes is some dude, his shitty ex-wife, and a cat. What the fuck is wrong with you? Why do you think that
describe your own home, John?
John, what?
No, that's 137 cats.
You like to answer to this? You like to answer this question because I think it's pretty obvious.
Now, why would European politicians be protecting a certain group and literally going after its indigenous population?
Because
It's almost as if they want a homogenous blend of everyone and everything into an ethnically beige base that is completely devoid of any actual culture of its own. So they can just turn them into mindless automatons and drones when the time comes.
this is something you touched on. Thank you for mentioning that, John.
Beautifully
which
said,
is-
by the way.
No, yeah.
Nice.
No, absolutely correct. And one thing that annoys me, right, about all these types of politicians, right? They try to push for these policies and they go, "Oh, we need to bring in more migrants. We need more," right? And then what they're trying to do is what you would call forced diversity, which is which in the history of all of humanity has it ever worked.
Right.
Every time you introduce a group of people that instead of wanting to, I should say, synthesize with the culture that is already there and further expand it, make it better while preserving the base and adding a new layer of diversity to it, you instead have a situation where this group sees the other group as a threat and then decides we need to take over because our existence is in peril if we don't try to preserve our traditions, and then the traditions of the indigenous group clash, creating conflict. Now, normally, the way to solve this is by the leaders of the indigenous groups maintaining order, making sure they don't get overwhelmed. But when your very own leadership, your very own government, is trying to basically speed along your demise, well, at that point, it's no surprise the indigenous population is pushing back, and at some points getting very violent. Because
Well, that's why these stories. That's
Well,
why
in
these
that-
stories, Dragon, are getting censored and stigmatized and tyrannized. Because if we learn from our history, the last time Europeans banded together, it led to the deaths of tens, if not hundreds of millions of people when one country tried to conquer the entire civilized world, and it took one hell of an unholy alliance to bring them down. Think in the establishment's shoes, folks. European people have led the way in civilizational terms since the time of the Roman Empire. That's a very potent force, especially if it believes in itself. And that is very difficult to control. Whereas second and third world peoples are far easier to control because they haven't had those levels of rises and falls. You could argue they're less developed, or they're a lot more traditional. The point I was going to make, Coach, is that as we see these stories, the tyrannies, the bad guys of these stories bleed into reality, it's going to cause a lot of chaos, and that will be the battle for the 21st century.
Now, let me also, for the creative community, that is, and for the people that are maybe also new to the channel and don't know how we usually operate over here on Three Sages in a Time Machine. Of course, there's always a discussion, always a conversation, but over here I set us up for a quest of truth, of navigating the past and really finding out. This is not for me. It's not just a tagline. I've been researching this my entire life. Like literally, there's been not a moment since I started on this trip, and it's been a very, very long time ago, that I've not studied is something or researched something out of that context. So for us, making these shows is not just, of course, debating, discussing all that, but it's also trying to really show where this stuff is originated, where it comes from, who are the perpetrators of this, and who built these structures that are always kind of cyclically, periodically, sometimes even in a scary, reliable way, keep spitting out the same ideas under a different cloak, of course. But usually it's always like this camouflage system that kind of encapsulates the same radical, extremist, and delusional ideas. So, in a nutshell, DEI, wokeism, and transgenderism in its extreme form, of course, is nothing else than cultural Marxism, right? It is a form of Marxism, but who brought Marxism to Europe? I mean, besides Propotkin and Bukharin and of course Gelfi, Gramsci, Garibaldi, okay, all these guys, but who actually installed that as a system European, like, and on this whole European level, and made sure that it was, from that point on installed as a program, like a malicious software, like a sleeper cell that every 40 to 60 years kind of wakes up and starts printing out and kind of, the system that everybody now has to obey, which is, in a way, it is Marxism. But where is it actually coming from, the root? And I've researched this and like many, many years, and I'm still not completely sure, but one big component of all this is a city called Birmingham, as crazy as it sounds. Like in Birmingham, the second biggest town, right, in the UK. City. In England, not in the UK, I think, right? In England. Birmingham is host to many interesting personalities and a lot of historical figures that were super influential also on the world stage, somehow came or kind of transitioned a long time through Birmingham. Right? Everybody's always looking to London and Edinburgh, and rightfully so, and we have Dublin and Belfast, but Birmingham is sort of like Aston Villa, right? It's like Prince Harry, and then Prince William. It's like nobody cares about Birmingham, but actually Birmingham is one of those cities, right, that made Marxism popular and started divulgating it to the world stage and inserting it almost permanently, as we can see, into government system. How is this possible? So the families that went through Birmingham, like the Edgewoods, the Goltons, right? Maybe not so known in the public ear, but still heavy industrial, super influential Freemason, of course, families from the UK, but also the Huxleys and the Orwells and the Watts and all these other families that somehow, after the Industrial Revolution, took control over the UK. The Cecil Rhodes, that then later on with Prince Edward created the infamous British Committee of Imperial Defense, which, by the way, was never signed and consecrated by the Parliament. It is till today a physical, almost illegal entity that somehow exists, since its inception. And the reason,
absolutely.
right? And it's crazy that it became also so influential. So internally, the UK has become a system that was majorly controlled, of course, by the city of London, but also by the city of Birmingham. Why? Because in the city of Birmingham, we have the so-called Lunar Society. And also, if you look up the Lunar Society, initially, you don't think much about it. Okay,
the
it's
moon
a society.
people.
It's the moon people. It's the snake people, right? It's the veneration of the snake, right? And of the
moon too. Very matriarchal.
Yes, the matriarchal, but the negative matriarchal aspect, the destructive, the satanic matriarchal aspect, right? So the Lunar Societies, the Golden, the Edgewoods, the Huxleys, the Tylers, the Cecil Rhodes, the Watts, and of course also Darwin, right? Well, let's not forget that. Later on, intermingled with people like Bernard Shaw and all the others, and created a society that is called the Fabian Society, which later was then also brought to London. Now, if you research the Fabians, just to give you a snowflake crystal on top of the, Fabian Society iceberg, that crystal, like the UN building, the United Nations building, that is heavily influencing, culture and transgenderism, is bringing all these topics, right, also into parliaments, into interest groups. The United Nations building is built on Fabian Society ground. It was sold to them by Huxley. And what is it that Huxley wrote? He wrote Brave New World, that later Scorsese, who was a great admirer of the Fabian Society, of Huxley, of Golden, of Tyler, and also of Darwin, shot his first movie, which is THX 1138, which is a rendering of, Brave New World, and a little bit also of 1984. Now, the Huxleys, the Orwells, the Lewis, the Carrolls, all these people knew each other. They they were a big philosophical compound that created itself after the Industrial Revolution. And to some extent, there is nothing bad about it, because it was a legitimate wish to kind of, rise from the ashes of, what Industrial Revolution meant, and really building a modern society with legitimate needs. Maybe in the beginning, we call this phase in human revolution the mechanical phase, right? And the Homo faber was born out of it. And we're somehow also still living in that system, right? If you think about it, it's a very mechanical system that has difficulties to adapt to new technologies. Just think about how we send money over the globe. It's still SWIFT. It's a mechanical messaging system that is 70 years old, right?
Yes.
And so this society with the Fabian Society, they have brought us the infiltration of the philosophical institutions, the so-called think tanks, all these semi-legal consulting firms that are also sitting inside of governments, and they were pushing this cultural Marxism agenda from the time of the inception of the society, and they've never stopped doing it.
Well, I mean, you're making the one thing that we do need to make a point of is the main. What's always been the main motivator of these kinds of societies, of these kinds of individuals, actually, and the main motivator has always been acquiring control and maintaining it. How do you best do that? Well, you take control of the government systems and the people's programs and such. Well, how do you do that? Because government has many layers to it. What do they have in common across the board? Easy. Money. And money gives you power, influence, and access that would be otherwise very hard to attain. And it gets you necessary connections that it allows you to bribe people or convince people to keel over and stay on that side of the line as long as you give them what they want, right? And so these kinds of societies, as they've evolved throughout the eons, okay, because this people don't seem to understand, it's always the same group of individuals. Their names have changed throughout history. That part does not matter. Yeah, well, what matters is what people call the obvious cult of the. Well, I wouldn't say it's a cult of the serpent, because technically there's multiple ones.
Yes.
But there is more like, I guess the best description would be if we go by Thoth's description of the sons of darkness and the followers of light, be more accurate if we're going to go that far into it. But
well, it's an empire of lies, Dragon. I mean, Cecil Rhodes was brought up. I literally have a book, talking about the life of Rhodes. It is from a more progressive perspective, but that man literally defied the British Empire, tricked the sovereign Queen Victoria in the process, and took over what became Rhodesia. Private initiative to conquer a territory the size of Western Europe in the span of a few years illegally.
And Cecil Rhodes, I'm sorry, then you can take over. Cecil Rhodes is also one of the forethinkers of concentration camps. He was the one who suggested then to King Edward to start with the boorish populace in South Africa. 30 years before Hitler came to power, they already institutionalized concentration camps in South Africa.
Right. Oh yeah, I mean, think about it. If you wouldn't implement a model that hasn't been foolproof, right? Even maniacs, okay, like
of course,
are aware of that. So he didn't just pull it out of his butt in terms of like what he wanted to do.
What does John think of this?
So this is the thing. It's like, a lot of these people, they try to take what is whimsical and divine and kind of like, just like these wonderfully strange aspects of reality that go beyond our understanding and comprehension. They try to dial everything down to like this very humanistic framework, because they don't want to be beholden to anything that goes beyond their litmus of power and control. And so if anybody has a attachment to the idea of a godlike consciousness, whatever you want to call it, any kind of actual faith that goes beyond the state, that's the thing that has to be destroyed, because ultimately they feel that if they can if they can, like, because ultimately all these things always move towards life extension technologies. All this stuff is ultimately transhumanism. That's what this stuff builds towards, and I always bring that up into these conversations.
AKA California.
They ultimately, at the end of the day, they want to bring an end to the sexes, to the races, to to everything. They want a world full of beige and gray, as I said, automatons that are highly, they're highly compliant and pliable, and you can just slot one in and out for another. And if there's any way that you actually think about the world kind of beyond your own understanding, with any kind of grandeur or anything like that, and you actually start to actually live in a world rather than just in a conceit of a concept, then you have a world full of possibilities. But they don't want a world full of possibilities.
Think about
they want a world full of rigid, tight controls.
Because he's having technical difficulties. That's why he's not shutting up. He speaks so much that his own system wants to give in. But in all seriousness,
I have not been talking. What are you talking about?
He's not even started, man. He's just like,
this is just pre-prep.
When you talk about secret technologies, we know that the authorities have technologies decades in advance that they keep private. I genuinely think the internet was like a leaked secret technology that just ran out of the opposition's control, or maybe one of their old timers just slipped it out for release. Because the internet, digital media, alternative media, has really opened up a can of worms for the opposition, and it is causing their empire of lies to collapse. This is an element that can't really be controlled without the kind of censorship that would overwhelm most administrations, because the internet, the online world, is limitless in a sense, and the only thing that limits it is the imagination and the innovation of the people who utilize it. But
and this is what John has been saying, right? Like John's been saying that, right? They want to limit us because they know we have limitless potential, and so they're scared.
Well, that's being manifested on the internet, on the digital world, and that is bleeding. Yes. The past decade, at least, it has been bleeding into the physical world, which is why you're seeing this empire of lies collapsing in on itself.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. John, I've been also wondering, like, if creativity and mythology is such a danger to them, is it maybe also because, and this is what Dragon and Ryan have been, and me have been also doing, on the show, like extensively researching also mythology, because there are many books that are also connected to Greek mythology that are banned from the world market. So as if there is something stored in mythology that we keep overseeing. That's why, and we don't see, but maybe there are more clues than we actually can assume.
Right. Well, it's like when they were actually burning books in Germany and things like that. Like the books that were being burnt are not like every book. They were books that, like, they were actually
books on transing kids.
Real, yes.
Damn.
So, like...
And you wonder why they went fucking crazy. They went through this and decided, let's just kill everyone. That's going mad as a result of staring into the void, folks.
Right. Well, sometimes you have to, till your crop under and, just wait for the next harvest.
Yes.
Well,
that was the idea on that one.
By the way, these are illustrations from Alice in Wonderland, which is considered, of course, also right-wing literature, right?
What?
Well,
right,
no wonder the opposition call us all these names, which are falsehoods, because the opposition, the far left, the cultural Marxists, are attempting to push in this day and age the kind of slimy shit they pushed in the 1910s after the First World War and in the 1920s. I mean, the idea of transgenderism does go back that far, and the concept
it's even older. Yes, absolutely.
Oh yeah.
During that, weird roaring 20s period that was inspired by deviancies of the past.
Yeah, there's been pedophiles and sacrifice. Human sacrifice goes all the way back. Like that's part of like
I'll have
you
to
know
edit
like
that out of a fucking clip, John. Thank
Yeah,
you
it's
very
great.
much.
It's all
sorry,
good.
sorry. I
By the
thought
way,
Damn.
I went into
Look,
the free
I
speech
said
zone. I went a little
kill.
too
By
free.
the-
Sorry, I
by-
thought we were in
I
with the
said
control state.
kill, so I'll have to edit that out as well.
right.
God
But-
damn.
Two things really quick. By the way, if you really want to catch up on like I've just broken this down really quickly now just to get the context of the conversation today. Otherwise, if you really wanted to dive deep, I did an immense like deep dive. I think it was an open class doodle with a lot of drawing where I explain how they installed through all these different organizations during the Republic takeover of Europe, all these cultural Marxist, lodges through the Freemasonic orders and also Paramasonic orders. It's like a 2.5 hour video. It's really for the nerds out there. If you like to see it, just jump to the channel and there I break it down. Of course, granted, was just like just thrown out there so people get a bit of the drift of what we're talking here.
Yeah. But all right, so let me restate the PDFs.
Absolutely.
The PDFs have been around for quite some time, and
Yes.
and nothing really changes other than the surface layer of technology.
Very good. Yes, you're right.
When you talk about like the things that motivate that though in this world, there is basically two primary forces. What we see, here in our manifested reality, it's the caboose of the energy that's the engine that guides it, And so if you want to stop these things, you can't necessarily do it by derailing the train once it's already on the track. Will you take out that train? Sure, but that's, like one kind of motive. And there's multiple train stations. So if you actually want to be able to do anything about that, you have to deal with it at the kind of inception level and the intention. And so that's why you see them doing this whole thing where they're trying to separate and divorce children from the concept of even having parents and things like that in today's reality, because they themselves, it's the same on either side. You either plant those trees and raise them right to actually, kind of have a greater appreciation for themselves and the world that's around them. They're the stewards too. And like, you actually have to have this connection to, the natural order of things, but they're anything but natural. And so that's where it's all like, oh, we can get everybody to just believe in charts and graphs and trust the science and all this kind of rhetoric about like, how do you go and make the world a very small place that is, more easily, censored, cajoled, kind of, shocked into submission. And you do that by making, people's concept of what is, like we were just saying, like the concept of the individual has to be so minuscule and broken down that they believe at that moment that when they use tactics like money is the means of taking care of something in the moment. The power structure that creates, that's the thing that's for the long-term purpose, And so when they say follow the money, that's only part of what it is, because once you follow the money to where it leads to, then you actually have to see what their ideology is actually about, because that was the whole purpose of using the money in the first place, was to set that thing into a stable kind of, operation. So that
because the money keeps you trapped ultimately, right? This is also what Dragon and I have been discussing. The money is just there. It's just a mechanism to keep you trapped, so they can,
And what's crazy is the only reason it's able to trap people is because of how well designed. Think about it, right? It's like at this point, the way the system's been designed. Right?
By the way, these are original Lewis Carroll drawings. Ooh. Like this is his stuff. Look how disturbing and interesting, some of this.
I mean, it's kind of that's the whole purpose of it. If it wasn't weird and disturbing,
it adds a new meaning to magic mushrooms.
No, we will talk about it for sure.
It's not as creepy as H.P. Lovecraft. That man had the most warped imagination out of all of them. But one of the things I always wonder, right, for the longest time, was, why is it that these people who know they're doing wrong or who want to do right but are simply limiting themselves, why do they keep doing the same shit that they know is not going to get them anywhere, right?
Yes.
And the main concern and the main focus is obviously money, right? Now, why is it? Because money is so closely connected to every aspect of our society. Literally, get from acquiring food to services to just living your life in a normal, comfortable manner, right? Because that is the system that was designed to work for the longest time. It's what allowed us.
But the system
to
is
evolve.
breaking now, right? I
Well,
mean,
because the system, because here's what happened, right? At some point, the system. Let me put it this way, man. The system used to work a long time ago when human perceptions were completely different than they are now. But at some turning point, the programming, let's put it that way, became corrupted. So a hard reset had to be done, and then a repair of sorts had to be done, whatever data was left over, and they created and a new model was created that, for the most part, let's give it credit, worked really well up until a point where, again, human perceptions or consciousness changed drastically, which is basically the last, I would say, 150 years since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Okay, and from that point forward, we have now reached the boiling point where.
do you guys believe in Tartaria? I'm just throwing this out there. Just interested in your take on how
If
the
you-
actual history timeline, and we
Like
will talk about
Tartaria?
Do you believe that there has been the mud flood
Dirigible
and
society
like?
and the blimps and all that kind of stuff.
Do you believe that there's been like a reset? Because now we're talking about resets as well, right? And
Here's
so
the
maybe,
thing
and
about
these books were
resets.
warning us about this.
Yeah.
So maybe
Well,
this theory is not as crazy as
Let me
it
put it
sounded in the
about
beginning.
Tartaria. Okay, so in terms of Tartaria, my belief is that I don't think, honestly, that it existed in our current time. Most likely, the Tartaria that some people are describing are very scattered writings or tales of a society of humans that used to exist a long time ago alongside another one before, my opinion, some great natural catastrophe occurred, either caused by human hands due to their foolish manipulation of technology for warfare, or simply because it was meant to be, and unfortunately people did not listen. You know, the Moses story, because there's tales of that, right? So and also like
Coach,
yeah.
new word.
Oh.
What the fuck is a Tartaria?
What?
It is all right.
So-
So, it's
All right.
it's a,
I
it's a dirigible.
Oh my God! I opened something. Let's go.
Yeah,
It's a
like,
society
is that a game?
no,
Is that
no, no, it's-
Terraria?
No. It was a society that was vertical in its orientation. So, like, you're talking about like these super high, tall cities where they use dirigibles and blimps to kind of.
No, there's literally on Wikipedia, Tatari. It's literally a place.
Yeah, it was also in the international flag book. There was a flag with Tartaria, so it existed, because if it's in the flag book, it existed. There's also the pirate flag, so there was also a piratia or a pirate. Like there was also some sort of country that belonged to the pirates, right? And yeah, Tartaria is. Can we say it's another idea of the Hyperborean race, of the vertical of the Atlantic? Just one of those components, right? That pre Ice Age. But at this point, we don't know if it's Ice Age, because if this theory is correct about the reset of time and then us having amnesia, not like. This is also what I was mentioning last time, the Cabbage Patch Kids. It seems like that there was some sort of there were factories producing kids. And this is, I mean, it sounds crazy, but it seems like that
Called a
cloning,
hospital.
they were producing kids artificially. Like, it was almost like, and they were
It's called
repopulating all these
Planned
cities. Yeah, it's crazy. And so there
the
are
other
many,
way.
and so I thought, when you read,
If you have an absence of the
Right.
divine and the capacity to create, you will make nothing but sheer horror.
Basically, I mean, that's sort of been the warning throughout the ages, whether you believe in the alternative histories or not. Like, that's been the general warning. Like, a man without spirit is basically is basically a living undead, and a man with spirit and no groundedness at this point will just float away into nothingness, because there's nothing anchoring him. The idea is that both have to be together in balance.
Well, the existing establishment, because all systems, whether we like it or not, folks, break eventually. I mean, from Tartaria to the American Empire, all systems will eventually break. And the primary reason for that is is based on that power and control level. You cannot build a foundation of sand. And I think our civilizations in the West, whether we like to admit it or not, they're not built on foundations of sand. They're built on foundations of blood. Both our blood, our ancestors' blood, and the blood of everyone that has been cut down in trying to stop, especially the Western world. You could make the same argument with the communist world as well, although not much of that exists in brick and mortar anymore. And to me, at least, we are seeing a breakdown in the existing established order. The empire of lies is collapsing because they can't really get away with doing anyone in anymore, at least not overtly. And that's why we see psychological warfare a lot more than physical warfare, because this ain't 20 years ago. You can't just do in hundreds of thousands of brown people in Sandland over in the Middle East anymore, because that would cause, rightfully a massive opposition, because you can't just do people in on that kind of a scale. I mean, our system peaked at the end of the Second World War, which kind of coincided with the peak death rate of people.
But isn't it funny that they are hijacking our mind rather than, this is how
the economic system's not working. That's the problem. It's
can't get away with it.
severely.
You can't get away with physically doing in the kind of numbers necessary to keep the system going. That's why they hate the concept of peace. That's why the opposition, they always push for war, more wars against Russia, in the Middle East, in other parts of the world, Afghanistan, Iraq, which is also in the Middle East. Afghanistan is not.
Well,
the point is, I think our system is driven by a bloodlust rather than funny money.
To what you were saying about the industrialization of, people, even, I truly believe that, especially here in America, that a lot of the control state was ushered into power through the industrialization of food and the ability to kind of make it edible, but not necessarily nutritious. And, most people walk around in a haze because there is a gut brain connection.
Absolutely. You're 100%
have had
right.
completely and utterly destroyed. And so I believe that, the cognitive abilities of the world has suffered by and large because, this was committed as a way to, disconnect people from their own capacity to actually, think beyond, what they've been impaired by. And again, this is just more forms of limitation. And so if they can internalize that, put it in the places that you don't see, that's why they like to use things like genetic modification or,
that's an excellent point. Yeah.
Right. And then once you actually kind of get onto that, they'll go and they'll play their word games because, genetic modification became, gain of function. Became directed evolution, becomes whatever the bullshit Fauci tries to say to keep himself from actually being accountable for being quite literally the man who sold the world. Well, actually, I guess Gates is the man who sold the world. Fauci's the one who poisoned it. But those are two of the biggest villains on the planet. Total bozo Bond villain billionaires. Him and his his dutiful scientist that he's been talking to for the better part of the last 30 years to figure out how to aerosolize the AIDS virus effectively, which
absolutely.
What COVID, that's what you find out that COVID really is it's a mutated form of airborne AIDS.
And I got to tell you this, John, to respond to what you're saying, and to you, Bob, in the chat, I might as well, show you a landfill because it's literally that. My studio setup. You're seeing the best of it here, but if you think,
but it's good, so we feel better about ourselves. If we see your trash, so it's good for us.
If you think
the system in place,
I don't put perishables in my room. I'm not a fucking moron. But in terms of non-perishables, this room is a landfill and would make Asmongold's creator studio look super clean and tidy before he tidied up his creator room. Okay. But no perishables.
To your credit,
No
to your credit,
perishable.
you don't have the money to afford a maid service like Asmongold does, and he
Right.
still persists to just let it look like I'm sure if you had like a better situation in certain ways, it would probably be a little bit more upkeep.
I just
But you know,
despise empty space, and if I can't make use of it, I'll just fill it with rubbish.
indeed.
No, but the thing, just to get kind of give you food for conversation, it is clear, right, that the system has, kind of reused these patterns over and over again. If you look back into the 60s, for example, they told us in the 60s, you find a lot of news articles. The 60s, and we talked about this last time also. Check out that episode about, the deep state and how everything, like where we see the clearest patterns of the deep state functioning. We're definitely also going to shoot some other deep state episodes. But in the 60s, the deception took place on they started like a major scale deception in all countries. And it's clear that there was some sort of like a change of narrative, a clear takeover, right? Second World War, of course, we know exactly Second World War is still a rat's tail of what went on in the First World War. The British not accepting the fact that the German Italian axis was stronger, and so they tried everything, and they succeeded in kind of diminishing the power of Central Europe, and therefore Germany, and kind of dividing also the South from the northern part of Europe. They did a great job. I mean, you have to give credit where credit is due. Like the British secret societies and the secret service, it is nothing less than an extension, and the trade companies of Great Britain, and also with their cousins of the Dutch, they've done amazing work in destroying the continental Europe and just taking over a leadership position. But later on, if you look at the 60s, they told us oil would run out, petroleum would run out in 10 years. Now we're discovering that we have more reserves than ever, and we just discovered a new pocket that is gigantic, bigger than what Saudi Arabia's reserve gave to us for 60 years in a row. And so that flew out of the window. And then we had, in the 70s, we had, what was it? Acid rain. Yes, acid rain would come down and ruin all the trees and ruin our lungs and our hair and everything. We shouldn't go out. Right? Everything, right? Then the 80s, we had AIDS partially, right? And the ozone layer coming up also. These were played out in the 80s.
Always
and then,
making you shit up.
always making the 90s. Ice would melt. Now we find that Antarctica has grown the biggest ice caps and the biggest ice surface in 50 years, even though predictions 20 years ago told us that nothing would be left of Antarctica. And so they're using every 10 years these new mass hysteria narratives. Then there was COVID. Now we have UAPs and UFOs and Project Bluebeam, of course, and all this stuff, right?
3 simple words, Coach: narrative, control, collapse. I mean, if you want to create a crisis, folks, just spray chlorine gas all over your country. You'll have one hell of a fucking crisis then. If you're going to make shit up to try and scare the population into submission, you might as well put a bit of effort into it. The same old tactics do not work. And watch, in 20 to 30 years' time, when I get, a bit of support behind me, I'll get accused of asking the government to unleash chlorine gas on the population.
Right.
He's very dangerous. He's a threat to our democracy. He wants to gas his opponents. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, to Ryan's point, I wrote this thing probably about 6 months ago, and it's called "To Change the Language," right? And so change the language to create the debate to undermine the culture to revise the history to alter the facts, change the language, and then it just keeps doing that in repeat, and that's like a lot of this weird scientism that they want people to believe in and just go along with and give themselves over to, and essentially, as I was saying before, making gods of men and making the concept of anything beyond that out of reach and out of touch, and that becomes the profane and what is considered socially repugnant. And if you believe in invisible sky daddies or whatever, you're somehow beyond the pale. But if you want to go along with whatever the latest tech is, then you're completely in their way of suggesting it. You're the one who's right-minded in your thinking and actually here and now and fully with it. But if it's like Dragon was saying earlier, it's like like you have to have this balance between your feet in reality and not necessarily your head in the clouds, but actually having that connection to something that goes beyond you, because if you don't have that aspect of being within the system and being a part of it, where, and I'm talking about, of course, the natural order of things. If you somehow find yourself separated from that concept and you're above it all, and everything is kind of just left to your devices, in a very short order, it doesn't take long to destroy things. It takes forever to create something, it seems like, until it's actually like, comes to manifestation.
AKA see San Francisco, right?
Yeah. But to degrade something and to bring it down and just completely undermine like the very nature of it, that only takes like, some really focused efforts over a course of time. And when you talk about like, a kind of concentrated effort over the course of 20, 30 years, that's 2 generations of children. So you end up, having like these detached people that bear more detached people, and and
elites bearing elites and semi-royal aristocratic structures, right? If you think about LeBron putting his son into the LA Lakers roster, like, yeah, of course he's my son, now he's playing for the Lakers. This is not how competition works.
Yeah.
This is not how it's like
that's inheritance. But the problem is like not all the so-called royals or ones born to power are even but not all of them, right, Ryan? Here's what I'm gonna get at, right? Because I know you're really want to mention this. Not all of them born into the line of power into the group are even functioning properly. They're even probably more detached than the normal detached people
if I do this in public, will that make it a topic of the day? Ooh, triangle. He works for some secret society.
The sacred triangle.
As it turns into a diamond vagina.
What are you doing? This is Moloch. It's an unholy sign.
No, but in all, I was just.
it used to be. It is sacred too.
Yeah,
it is.
I wanted to distract Dragon Slayer because I wanted to say quite clearly.
This is why the conversation.
This is why the establishment, the existing order, want to keep us grounded on Earth, because if we go into the blackness of space, I know it's very deadly, it's black, then it will widen the framework, it'll widen the arena, and I think that's why we're seeing a lot of opposition to what Elon the alien Musk is doing, building his starships, because that is the man with the drive and the will to be king of Mars and to declare war on Earth.
Like I don't know if there is such a thing like Mars, but that's another discussion.
I mean, oh Lord, yeah.
Leon's gonna come busting down the door and start shouting at his coach.
Look,
sorry,
you flat earthers, I know it. You clearly believe in Uranus because you have one, Coach.
Dun, 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 dun. Hey, that was actually quite good.
Very clever.
It's okay, it's not bad.
No, but I have to say,
like from Ryan.
I can't wait for Elon's massive penile starship to probe Uranus.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
wow. Who the fuck would name a planet Uranus?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's a Titan.
That's like
it's a Titan from
Pluto.
Greek mythology.
Yeah, it's like naming technically it's Pluto cunt, Uranus, planet cunt, ladies and gentlemen.
Look,
next
Ryan,
to your right next to Uranus is cunt, planet cunt.
I kind of thought this was planet cunt. Seeing how many of them are walking about it.
I'm trying to mute him, guys. It's not working. I'm trying to mute him.
No,
Believe me.
The 480p is too strong.
Yeah, it's too strong. It's
too outdated to the
he's
point
pushing
where you
through.
can't get him.
Do you know why Pluto isn't a planet anymore? Because he was a fugly cunt. That's why.
Damn.
What's right next to Uranus? Well, it's
I
Uranus,
love
obviously.
how we compensate like these deep thoughts and cultural Marxism and what is really material, and then it's a friggin' cunt. I love how this comes together.
Well,
It's
it's a
beautiful.
balance, you know.
You know
clearly.
what?
You have to-
There's
No,
a-
I mean, this-
He's just
this-
a freaking cunt, man.
Oh yeah, it's a coon.
No, I'm-
and
I'm-
hey, by all
I'm
means,
saying-
I mean, this is sacred to us. Like humor,
It is.
is the top requirement. You know, all our research, even if it's a year long, bada boom, we still don't know if the knowledge that we are absorbing and kind of regurgitating and vomiting out, if that's actually real knowledge. So these are all theories. It's all speculation. It's all fun. We never should lose our humor. It doesn't
Well, I
matter how
was,
dark times is. Like
I
Tolkien
was
says that.
saying- I was saying all that stuff because I'm into overtime, unfortunately, folks.
Oh,
So I'm
that's
going
why.
to have to go.
This was the
best way.
curveball. You served as a curveball. Nice,
Yeah,
man.
the best way to go out of Three Sages in the
Fireworks.
Time Machine is to derail the fucking train.
Yeah,
ladies
man, you've done well.
This train doesn't stop
Derail.
of its own volition. I have to
I mean,
literally
you think
blow
it's-
up the train tracks to get off the
And
train.
think
then
it's
you lay
derailed,
down
but-
new tracks.
But here's the thing: like, there's some adept tangent kings here, and people that are
That's
quite
true.
good with words. So, like, we can actually
Yes.
take your derailment and actually use it as a pivot point to kind of bring
Exactly.
into the
Yes.
conversation, Lord of the Rings, which like when you think about like
Words-
what we were just saying, to commiserate through the misery is one of the most
Yes.
important things that you learn through the actual fellowship, which is what we commonly refer to ourselves in this area of the internet, because we are dealing with, even though Tolkien wasn't trying to write an allegory, there it is one of the most allegorical things you can look to what we're dealing with right now
Yeah.
in today's society, with these actual rings of power and subterfuge and ways of kind
Woods
of
isn't
insidiously
here,
taking control.
John,
I'm
because
aware.
he's starting his own conspiracy show very, very soon.
Oh yeah, no, it's
As
about
for
half an hour.
me, you can check me out over at Ryan Roger Athe, host and founder of Reality Based.
Is
I'm
this still
here
my
at
show?
480p, hence the term Mr. 480.
For the
Well, you were
moment-
gone for so long, Coach. I could have taken over this show as well.
For sure.
Three sages and a twat machine, as it were.
Hey,
But no,
fuck
not
you,
you,
you the
John.
twat.
You fucking.
think it's
Dun,
just
dun, dun,
bring
dun,
one
dun, 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 dun.
Expect plenty of videos, plenty of shows, and plenty
For
of
sure.
videos from said shows. We're gonna have
Yes.
a great show tomorrow, showcasing some sexy lady creators on Rising
Woo!
Stars, reality
Bring on the
based
sexy
Rising.
scene.
I can't even imagine to bring you and sexy lady content creators in one sentence like that.
We'll be
already kind of-
showcasing them. They
We'll
will
all
be
be there.
on.
Oh yeah, but even that, it's like, oof.
he can't conceptualize in a drawing yet.
No, no.
Hey,
And
Sonia,
believe me.
make a video or two. You might join the lineup. So
I'll
until next
be
time, ladies and
there
gentlemen.
walking through the darkness.
Yes. He used to
Derailed.
be in. He used to work in a pawn shop. You know, he used to test all the dildos in the shop.
He's a good man. He's a good man. He has done good duty. These are the important deeds. He's a good
Bye
man.
for now.
Right.
Take back control
Bye, my
of
man.
your show,
Very
Coach.
important,
Okay,
Ryan.
go away now. Go away now.
Go away now.
Strong cervix walls are important, you know?
Yes.
Oh my god,
true.
love it.
Very good point. We all do. Listen, I mean, the world is indeed full of peril. We know that. And there are many dark places, but still, there is much that is fair. And though in all lands love is now mingled with grief, it grows perhaps the greater. This is the master. This is Tolkien. And when he speaks, you know, your soul is quiet and just listens. Because he tells us how to feel about darkness, about grief, about death. And this is why Lord of the Rings is so important. And that's ultimately also so crazy because it has so many layers of tales and so many intermingled, intertwined narratives. And all for them are telling a different story. But I think for him, the biggest and most important story being someone, and yes, allegory back and forth, but being someone, of course, I mean, he served in war. He was literally at war.
Yeah,
Does
he was.
this influence you? I'm pretty fucking sure that as an artist, if you
Most
experience war personally, firsthand, right, and you see death and and famine and all that happening around you on a second basis, everyday basis. So of course that influences you, and you take that
Right.
into your poetry. And never forget, he created first the maps, then
Yes.
the language, then
Yeah.
the story.
Story. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So when he says the world is indeed full of peril and there are many dark places, you clearly it's just godlike what he tells us, right? He says he tells us first about the structure, about the firmament. There were no humans there. There is nothing there. He, like, in the foundation of Earth itself, like how the world is constructed, whether it's a globe or a tabernacle. I mean, it doesn't really matter, right? I totally agree with you.
Right, which
It
is what I was
doesn't
saying last week. Yeah.
absolutely. It doesn't fucking matter. Like whether it's this or that, it's still, it was constructed. It was designed by a big entity, and it was designed in a polaristic, in a dualistic way, because it's important to see that where the darkness is, only light can be born. And that's the beauty of Tolkien. He wants you to deal with the fact that yes, your body will be, somehow one day fading away. But what you have created, the structure that you've built, the hope that you've given to other people, that will exist forever.
Where you as an individual are temporal, the concept of like humanity was supposed to be the thing that was supposed to be long lasting and actually reinforced. And, and that's like Tolkien's writing, even though technically, like, as you said, he came up with the world space, and then he came up with the etymology of the languages, and then the story came from that. But the story was within him, like, the entire time, like the good intention. And so I truly believe that those things that came to bear, like, afterwards, to kind of like actually bring it into full fruition, he's talking about, well, this is kind of the thing I was trying to say last week to words, is like, don't get caught up on technically like every word that I'm saying in this. You actually have to listen to it to figure out what the message is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so many people want to like break down Tolkien or Orwell or any of these writers that we've been speaking about based on dissecting words and phrases and trying to like make the whole meaning based around this one little aspect, and it's like, well, that might be part of it, but there's far larger implications going on, because the entire story itself, in the room that I'm in right now, I've definitely got like multiple Orwell books and a beautiful copy of Lord of the Rings that I got from, my mother-in-law gave it to me as like, it was a gift that I had given her for Christmas one year, and then when she passed away, it was gifted back to me as like this thing to remember, and so like I'm due to pry them out of storage again at one of these points and start reading through them, because it's like every year around this time, I generally do a Lord of the Rings marathon, where I just basically watch Lord of the Rings for an entire week.
Likewise.
And
just had it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's good for the human condition to actually,
absolutely,
to be able to appreciate that what we do as individuals, is important to us in the small scale, but what we do, through our actual association with each other, that's the thing that really kind of speaks to what the human condition is really about. And when you look at like, the last few decades, specifically the last 100 years or so, roughly, of all this authoritarianism and, the stuff I was talking about earlier about like trying to drill people down to be disconnected from these grander concepts, the whole idea of like, actual fellowship, I truly believe that the 6 feet of distancing that they did during COVID hell world lockdown was to destroy our humanity and our, interconnectedness.
100%.
Because that was just like, if we can divide everybody, because we operate on total fields, right? So,
yes, absolutely.
And I was saying it last week, the
and scalar waves, absolutely, right.
The concentration of our energy is manifested in these,
yes,
bodies
absolutely,
that are temporal. But
if you look at the energy distribution of the body, they've studied this. They know this exactly, right? The energy distribution of the body. If you don't have close singularities to you, right? If the further the way they are, the less strong is your field. It's absolutely fucking fascinating.
Right. And when we used to be in communion with each other and actually like operate in good faith, we would, it's kind of like, how like a Wi-Fi router will boost the signal.
It's
and so
literally
we
like
used to
that.
boost each other's signal, and like there's like this energetic friction going on, but it's
That's
actually
why you have also the orbs, right? If you have a great party, like a really great party, everybody's enjoying, having fun, and then you take a picture, you see millions of orbs. They are not artifacts. These are not cameras. These are orbs. And you see millions of them. They're bright, they're symmetrical. You see them all over the place because the happiness attracts them. Or maybe they even created from them. I mean, it's still a mystery, and it's like it's still a riddle what orbs ultimately are. I can tell you, I felt an orb once in Rome, and I took a picture. You can find it on my Facebook page, because I felt the orb. It was so crazy because the energy concentration was so big. And so what they tried to destroy there, they tried, but they didn't succeed. They just weaponized the neurotics, the paranoids, and the unstable and the laziness. They knew they wouldn't probably hope, but they actually knew deep down that they wouldn't actually destroy the fabric of us, but they would weaponize massively the fundamentalists, because they want the isms to stay alive, right? That's why democracy and Christianity, they end on a Y. That's why they are so dangerous to them, because they are not isms, right? Because 432 megahertz, the one resonating, like that one that is the most harmonious for our toroidal field, that harmonic is being suppressed by record companies, by even by computer companies, right? They're trying to suppress golden harmony for a certain reason. And this has been now going on for ages. That's why they changed pop music, the way you program pop music. It used to be happening on 432. And funny fact, the last living artist that had the bass frequency rights to his music to be programmed on 432 megahertz was Michael Jackson.
Right.
That's
once they removed him, they removed.
Then everybody's operating at 440. You're going an extra octave. It throws your whole sensibility out.
Your water and your brain. And I've been part of a water research project for 2 years for aviation and aeronautics in Germany. And so what they found out, we traveled all over Europe to collect water samples and look at them under the microscope to kind of find out what good water is, how symmetrical, what are the components. And so we went to Sicily, to Mount Etna, to an active volcano, to take water samples from there, right? And it turned out it's one of the purest water sources in Europe. And we've then, kind of frozen these samples and take them out after we bombarded them with classical music. And then you play 432 or you play then 440, like this is pop music, how it changed. By taking out Michael Jackson, they took out goodness out of music, because all new music destroyed under the microscope. You could see it. It fragmented. It weakened the symmetrical structure of the hexagon of H2O.
The crystalline structures.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. When I worked at the doctor's office, we did a huge. When I was mixing in my wizards, kind of area where I would mix all the potions and everything for people. Every morning I would I had a bottle of structured water that I kept there, which is what you're talking about. It was water that was specifically set up to be imbued with the electrical field of a 432 hertz kind of, like it was meant to be exactly as it needed to be, so that you actually have living water that is thriving. And
maybe we should explain to the ones who are not completely aware or educated with resonance and frequencies what it's so special about 432.
Well, it's kind of like, I was going to say, I'll let you get into those specifics, but like when you're talking about when you go to 432 to 440, you can kind of think about it like when they launch a rocket into space. If it's off by 1 degree, you'll be 1,000,000 miles away from your target. So that's kind of the idea.
Yes,
it's like just a slight little change that nobody would even be able to technically perceive. But your soul recognizes that. That's why when COVID Hell World happened, I used to have an MP3 collection of like 10,000 music tracks, right?
Nice.
And when I was working at the doctor's office, we were doing all this stuff with scalar waves, and I was getting really into the non-solidity of reality, right?
Right.
And so I started thinking about the music that I was being bombarded with, right? And
Yep.
the way that it was kind of like hitting my soul. Because like I believe that we consume not only the food that we eat, but the thoughts that we keep, and like all the stuff. It all factors in. And so I just kind of decided one day that I was going to start collecting records, right? Because the whole idea of like listening to a compressed MP3 audio format.
Nice. Yeah, I totally understand.
It doesn't
No,
actually
it
connect with
doesn't.
you.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
And so you end up with like this kind of Swiss cheese kind of message.
It
that
could be
your
also
body-
that's why they introduced it, to kind of destroy the real harmony, right?
Right. And so like those harmonic resonances of like actually having like, what people call audiophiles, like people, like I can distinctly hear the difference between something that has had
Absolutely.
its resonance compressed
100.
and something
Yes.
that's actually, been recorded in a way that, gives it its fullness. And it's even better if you can actually manage on your own home recordings to re-encode everything at 432 to kind of correct some of that, the corruption that has kind of been built into it by just putting it up one more scale. And because we are scalar, and so like a lot of these things are done on a scalar level. And it was what I was saying before about like, if you want to derail the train for more than just that one train, you have to get it in that, in that intention level where it's just an idea, a concept, an energy, a waveform, if you will, but yeah, I'll let you go ahead and go on about that.
I do want to say something about frequency to make people understand a little bit, right? So, in terms of frequency, what the basic knowledge you need to understand, just a base idea, which will make the more complex parts of it easier to understand, is think of when you throw a stone into a still lake. What happens the moment that stone hits the water? It creates an impact point that ripples, and if anything, the ripple continues for a ridiculously long period of time. And as the ripples expand, they always expand in the same uniform across all, in the same form across all directions until there's basically no more contributing force. Okay,
Right.
and then the lake returns back to its normal shape eventually.
Right.
But it takes a while for that to happen because water, along with a lot of other things in existence, is highly resonant. Okay, with the surrounding frequencies, right? So usually when you emit every single living being on this planet, well, I would say every organic and non-organic thing on this in existence in general, let's just say it vibrates or gives off a signal at a specific type of frequency, right? And and if you try to match that frequency, okay, then usually, or you say use a higher or lower frequency that can further be used to enhance said individual or make a person feel nice and calm. Why is it that 432 hertz is so talked about? Well, because that is a very specific frequency that when the human body senses it, hears it, okay, the water in our blood literally resonates with it because we are literally, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe 70% water, 60% water.
75, 73.
75, okay.
Oh yeah, no, and that
And
the
important
water is a great recording device.
It is
Yeah, absolutely.
It can
Great
definitely
storage.
it can definitely record a lot of things, such as a lot of people understand emotions. It's very complex on that. But the
Right.
point is, why is
Interesting.
a lot of the music 440 hertz? Well, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's just a lot of music majors say, oh, it's just the music frequency everybody uses, a standard, right? Well, yes, it's true, but also it is a frequency that can make a person feel constantly nervous,
Agitated.
anxious, or aggressive. Yeah, it basically creates that alert sensation within you, right? That's why when you
Adds
hear
a little bit of stress and fatigue
like,
in
look,
your
it's
day.
like that's like when you hear that's why like if you're a metalhead, when you hear a certain track, okay, at that frequency, it makes you feel aggressive. Now, of course, as human beings, we can easily learn how to control it and exert it in like just enjoying, having a good time. But there's a reason why in throughout many battles, okay, throughout time, there's always been these band troops that played specific tunes to make marching easier, okay, to give people focus, right? And so what annoys me about the current music industry is that not only are a lot of the songs these days trash in lyrics in general, but mostly just they use the same fucking frequency that they know the only thing it's going to do is make people basically just exhibit some sort of negative emotion or not be, or better yet, it causes a person not to think at that time, right? They just want to focus on the song, which it does that. It grabs your attention, okay? Whereas 432 hertz music literally makes you feel absolutely relaxed. There's a reason why that frequency and other...
I mean,
slightly
Gothic
lower
cathedrals,
frequencies do
also, if you go into old European churches, you
Yes.
find 432. That's the whole architecture. The
Mm-hmm.
people don't understand that they were places of worship, but what they actually worshipped was health. I mean,
Yes.
what they were doing, the
They're built
organ
along
pipes.
ley lines, but we're
Yes.
not going to get into that.
No,
That's
that's
too much.
not today. I mean, we started with dangerous books, and this is why I love this show, because we
And then
have
we
the
went to ley
freedom.
lines and churches.
Yeah. I do not love the bright sword for its sharpness, nor the arrow for its swiftness, nor the warrior for his glory. I love only that which they defend.
Yep,
Yeah.
there you go.
This is why
Well, you
we're here.
being you being a vocal coach of all
Yes.
kinds of trades and professions, you would know quite a bit about the properties of why this is so important.
Absolutely. It's in a nutshell, it keeps the water crystal symmetrical and strong.
Mm-hmm.
That's in a nutshell what happens, just to really narrow it down very
Right.
schematically. I mean, I've been part of this incredible. It was an enormous privilege. I kind of slithered into this thing. I didn't even know I didn't understand. I haven't back then. I didn't really
Well, you know what Tolkien
knew
says
the
about
dimension.
wizards? They often
Right.
don't go where they want to; they go where they're led and called into action. So,
That was beautiful. Thank you, man. No, that was, yeah. No, maybe, yeah, it was that. It was definitely
You know
that.
what's
And
crazy?
I have a list here of the 7 benefits of 432 hertz music. if
let's
you
go.
want to,
Let's go.
Yeah,
Let's
go
go.
ahead.
Let's go.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So yeah, the first one is reduces stress and anxiety. This is a soothing nature of 432 hertz. May
Blow it up a little bit if you can.
Yep. Not a worry. Easily done. Let's
Nice.
see. There we go. That should work. But yeah, let's see. Let me get this out of the screen a little bit so I can actually read. Yeah, soothing nature, 432 hertz may help decrease the body's production of stress hormones, cortisol, making it easier for listeners to relax and feel less overwhelmed in stressful situations. And also, the magnesium, like anything that you say, think, and do in this world burns up magnesium. And so when you are burning magnesium and replacing it with cortisol, people wonder why, they have such a hard time getting to sleep in the world anymore, things like that. This is what that stuff's about, so it's like the princess and the pea, like I'm just going to do something so small and so seemingly insignificant that it doesn't even register. But we are divine beings of energy and light that are, we're wonderfully made and beyond our own comprehension. And
Sonia,
so,
you can't pass out when he's releasing such golden nuggets, please.
Oh, it's all right. I kept her up all night long. Like we were having a conversation.
Oh,
so it's totally understandable. That was like 12 hours ago that we got done talking. So she's been at work since. So she's
right.
I'll give her the clip notes later. She can always watch the VOD.
True.
But yeah, the way that we operate through the day, a lot of how we, just kind of experience the world is governed on our states of being, which is why, I'm so kind of caught up in this idea of, trying to eat clean foods, trying to make sure that, the water supply that I, imbibe from is also structurally balanced and, actually has the properties within it to keep me moving forward, and, when I was working at the doctor's office, of course, this was that's all that place was, it was nothing but clean, whole foods. And we have classical music generally playing, or kind of upbeat, kind of spiritual based music things like that.
Beautiful.
And atmospherically, a lot of essential oils were present in the air. I would generally bring all that kind of stuff. And then when I'd be sitting at my desk, I just have like jazz playing, things like, things that were actually kind of like really great and uplifting, just to kind of like, the lightness of the human body when you're actually kind of like in a flow state is amazing. So
it's
many
amazing.
people
Yes.
feel like, like they're just lethargic and like, like they're dragged down. And a lot of it has to do by this extra pressure that's been injected into the state of reality at this small scalar level.
I've been like, we have a big course over here at the COACHMC studio. Like, it's a 10-unit course. It's a big, beautiful program. A lot of people joining here. It's the Ready to Perform program. By the way, this is my website. Check it out. Also, if you want to learn about acting, performing, entertainment, if you want to step up your performance game in any ways, right?
Did you say you were in a Ridley Scott's set one time?
Yeah.
Ooh. You you just fucking threw that bomb like a couple days ago, and you didn't even give any context. God damn it, Coach!
It's all good.
No.
I didn't want to.
The appendices of the story.
I didn't want to detract now, but what I was saying, because it kind of plays in. What plays into this is part of my course is and it is not negotiable. It can't be skipped. So I give assignments and tasks and things to do. And one of the assignment is to start listening extensively to classical music. We have like a gradual program how to increase the volume, the minute that you have to listen to every day. But this is a requirement, and I give them all the links and the need to listen to it. And the response is incredible. It's absolutely amazing, right? These people come back, and the program is 3 months long, 4 months, sometimes even 5. It really depends what you want to do, but usually it's 10 units. It takes 3 to 4 months. And so after 4 months, people are saying, I feel smarter just by listening to classical music. So I have to thank you just for that, because I know I am smarter. It makes you concentrate. It calms your nerves. It lowers your blood pressure. It's in the enormous effect of like real classical music, therefore 432, on your life. It's overwhelming. It's absolutely incredible.
And so let's see. Number 2 here is enhances mental clarity and focus, which is what you're just talking about. Many users report that this tuning helps them think more clearly and concentrate better. Can be particularly beneficial in work or study environments where focus is important. Number 3 promotes healing and pain relief. There's claim that 432 hertz music can promote physical healing and reduce pain. Through more rigorous scientific research is needed to prove this definitively, which that's the thing about a lot of this stuff is it's kept in the kind of fringe science, kind of area. And this is one of those things that I would speak to in terms of the Lord of the Rings is, when we moved away from the holistic naturopathic healing,
yes,
and we started getting into the AMA controlled, petrochemical based pharmaceuticals and synthesized, nutrients and things like that. That's when, you're starting to see the breakdown of the human condition, because it's being filled with all these artificial things that while technically are edible, you can put them through your body, but if they're not actually anything that's not nurturing your body when you when you take
it's
it
a detriment to your health.
Right, because your body still has to process it, so we end up with all this extra wear and tear that that burns more of our energy and our fuel, but we're not actually being energized and refueled in that process. So people feel depleted and kind of like worn down by everything, because they've quite literally been getting the candle burned at both ends. Like they're sitting here saying, oh, well, I'm going to go get something to eat. And that thing that they're eating is actually going to cause even more inflammation and keep them, from actually kind of operating those optimal ranges.
Again, Tolkien was telling us this too. Think about the concept of lembas bread, right? You just need that slice. This is all your organism actually needs to really stay pure and, full of nutrition, so you can expand your mind. Like, who's eating the lembas bread? Of course, the elves, the one that have the highest reason, the biggest clarity of thought, right? And the highest, they are the Illuminatis. They are the real enlightened people, right? They travel to the west, to the
they glow, for fuck's sake.
So, and what
Yeah,
do they eat?
glow in the
Only
lore, so.
only the essential, only the purest thing. They don't feast. They don't have orgies. They don't exaggerate.
I mean, they do drink like motherfuckers, but that's like
Yeah,
on
but
special
because
occasions.
they are
that's
fucking
because
immortal beings.
technically immune to poison,
They're,
so-
But those are
exactly.
spirits, though. When you
Yeah.
imbibe spirits, though, and that's
Yeah.
the whole thing. It's like, and spirits are one of those things that they come in all forms.
Scooby
so-
Pup 01. Never will I get you. I'm sorry. We'll get your name wrong. I promise. I'm sorry. I will make sure that I don't have any German clients before going on the cast. And
He called Scooby Pup Scooby Poop by accident, John.
Scooby
Pup. He was
because I was working with a German before, and I'm sorry. We'll never have
these
that again.
things
Thank you for
happen.
stopping by.
I sometimes have a little bit of a stroke out myself, and like there was one day I couldn't say Sonia's name, even though like I say it all the time. Like, and I was just like, we were talking about something else, and like the words. Sometimes things just happen.
Scooby Pup.
But yeah, to continue on the list, it says here number 4 is improved sleep quality.
No, for sure.
So
Sleep
research included controlled studies with patients suffering from chronic pain. Other medical conditions have suggested the music tuned to 432 hertz may help people fall asleep faster and sleep more deeply, which again, like restorative sleep is one of the most important things rather than the quantity of sleep, because this again goes back to what we're saying about like the litmus spread and things like that. Like the body, is far more capable than like this whole kind of pedestrianized kind of reality that they want us to adhere to. They don't want people operating, on 3 to 4 hours of sleep a day, actually being vibrant and
High resonant. Yes.
Yeah, like highly resonant people don't require too much sleep. The entire time that I was working at the doctor's office, I mean I've had chronic insomnia since I was a little kid, but when I was working at the doctor's office, like it was like I was like a machine. Like I would stay up till about 2:30 in the morning, and then I'd lay down and I'd be asleep by like 3 a.m. and then 6 a.m. my alarm would go off, and I'd just kind of like start going through like all my stuff for the day. And this was just like, and I didn't even have an alarm system. Like I'd never used an alarm. I always woke up when I needed to wake up, and like just like it was just my body required what it required, nothing else. All the essentials were met, and like all that excess I tried to just kind of like cut out, which when people are like, you're like a weird kind of like like you worship crystals and all this kind of weird shit. It's like I can't say that I don't, because I've actually I've experienced the benefits of these things. And to any of these people that think that this is kind of like pie in the sky kind of wushu whatever, have you ever actually tested in your own life?
Tried.
Right.
Like I mean, at least try, guys.
Yeah.
You don't have any idea. I mean, it's so funny. Again, like when
Just exercising is already solving half the problem.
absolutely get up and go out and do something. A couple of minutes every day. You will see how that
Just
will
don't take steroids, please. No steroids.
Don't no, but some
That's gonna fuck you up.
creatine, some shakes, get whatever. It's like and
Those
that's
short-term gains have long-term detriments is really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
So
you should be stable. Like at least in my experience, I have listened to a couple of tracks in 432, so I do.
I think
agree
also,
with
no,
I agree with the benefits in general. They do.
yeah.
They do amazing work. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just
So-
that I think what needs to happen in the music industry is people needs to start producing their music using 432 instead.
right.
Honestly, I don't think there might be some slight changes in terms of like the music quality and such, but the long-term effects it'll have on listeners, I think, is going to be very good. And also, one thing I did notice, right? So one thing people don't understand about physical exercise is that it actually teaches you a core principle that in this current day and age doesn't want to teach you, okay? Especially the powers that be. They don't want to teach you discipline.
right?
It's very important, right? 'Cause-
And determination.
yeah, no, discipline, determination, but like one of the things is you're always being told how weak you are, like how weak the human body is, and like in many different forms of media, right? But the human body is actually quite sturdy. You can put it through a lot of punishment, and in reality,
look what we do to it in our reality on day to day. and it still tries to adapt and thrive. That's the whole point of the
It's
body.
the
is to
crazy
thrive.
part, right? People forget, like, your feet, literally all those hundreds of bones in your feet are holding up 1.5 of your weight. Okay, your current weight. So if you ever wonder, okay, why doctors completely stress that you build strong lower back and leg muscles early on, is because, believe it or not, the older you get, not only is it harder to build said muscle fibers, okay, but at the same time, you're going to experience more back pain. So what they're trying to tell you is, hey, do this now so you don't have to put up with it as bad when you get older. It will be a minor inconvenience to you, but if you do this from an early age. And guys, there are natural supplements you can take, okay? And that will help you along your journey. Hell, you don't even have to take that many. Like, you don't have to believe what the fucking supplement companies are telling you about, oh, I need to consume this whole set that puts me down by like $200. No. You can do it with half the amount and still gain results. The problem is that we are in a society that is obsessed with either rapid or instantaneous results. And and that's why you see this plague of what I like to call the roid goblins. Okay? Just going around social media. We're talking about fucking 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
Literally telling people on camera, hey, when I was 16, I started taking Tren or all these other substances.
Right.
And then it actually reminded me of 1984, the same shit. They're trying to trick you.
By the way, do you guys know why the title?
Because it was supposed to be 1948. It was, and it was just an inversion of those last two numbers to kind of like.
That's just the official story they gave. This is just it's not the
he also
true
died
story.
in 1950. But
well, do tell if you know.
Yes, please do tell.
Absolutely. So what he encoded right in this title is something way more precarious. So 1984 is the celebration of the 100th years anniversary of the Fabian Society. And he wrote this now because he was a Fabian, or he was definitely associated with all these beautiful, like all of it was normal back then. People like C.S. Lewis, like Tolkien was part of the Bavarian Society. All these people were some sort in paramasonic lodges, paramasonic societies, diners club. I mean, credit cards have been born because of that, because the diners club existed, right? And so it was.
It's the only place you can get knowledge or find people that thought like you.
But Orwell, in real name Eric Arthur Blair, what he really meant to tell us is, by the time the Fabian Society celebrates its 100th birthday, they have implemented everything that I write here in this book. This was his actual message, and that's why he was always prosecuted. I mean, he lived under a complete, a very incredible life, a very strange life, right? He believed also in the occult, and he also believed he was persecuted by witches, and they would perform black magic and voodoo rites and strange things on him from distance. That's why he changed his name and also the cities he was living in quite frequently, because he really believed that people would track him down spiritually and mentally, that were attacking him, because he was releasing the truth. Don't forget, this is one of the most banned books worldwide. It's still forbidden in the also in the Arabic Emirates, right? Like Animal Farm, right? Animal Farm is still forbidden in the Soviet Union and in what is now Russia. It's incredible how much his books, especially they are on the first and the second most banned books in the world and being considered dangerous. They are not telling you anything else than what the Fabian Society, with help of Marxism as a catalyst, and with the hyperledger structure called communism, would do to mankind once implemented fully.
Right.
What's even more crazy now that you mentioned? Okay, this is I'm just gonna say this random comment because I feel like it's very interesting when you think about it. So with Islam and all the Abrahamic religions, I think out of all of them, out of all the three, I think the most tragic one in terms of how quickly it fell and got swooped under the control, of the institutional side of things, or the dogma, was definitely Islam. Like that shit. If you read it, like with every goddamn Abrahamic religion, it all started out the right way. Somebody had a good baseline, but then the
Yes.
second the person that presents the baseline kicks the bucket, it all goes to shit. The control is immediately assimilated into the machine, and then that's why you end up having books like 1984, because these people, just like us, see the hypocrisy of like, wait a minute, you're telling us see this way, but then when we ask about, wait a minute, why are we looking this way? This thing is telling me there's another direction we should be looking at, and then you get told, no, you can't look that way because God said so. Where does it say so in this book? Well, did you ever hear God?
Islam
tell you?
is
It's a sort of thing, right? Like you can't question anything.
The reason
Well, it's one of those things where you see with your eyes, but you perceive with your consciousness. And so if they can limit people's consciousness, then they have you operating on just what you can see in that limited.
But the funny thing is, that's what they tell you in the books anyways.
Yes,
But people, it flies over people's heads because nobody thinks about that.
The problem with Islam is, in comparison to other religions, a belief of fundamentalism that the world is. By the way, if you really look into Buddhism and you read their lore carefully, you will find out this is not so different. Like Buddhism is not the happy, glory, shiny, peacefully religion that they always been sold into the West.
Too.
They are hyper fundamentalists. Like for them, the world is bad, evil, and corrupt, and therefore, if you destroy the world, hey, you've accomplished your mission. It's all fine because it's not you that you have to change. No, the world has to change. The world is always bad. The world needs to be transformed. The world needs to be worked on. The Homo faber, the mechanical man that, George Bernhard Shaw, all these poets, they weaponize the Fabian society and their ideas, right? And with the help of Huxley and, also, of course, others that somehow, if you look at them, you think, hey, these are actually good folks, great artists, beautiful poets, incredible writers, amazing authors, yes. But they also have perpetrated a deeply Marxist idea. It's actually a satanic mindset to believe, like fundamentalists, like Buddhists, like Muslims. Unfortunately, many of them are fundamentalists, of course. For them, everything is sin, everything is precarious, everything is rotten, and therefore, if you attack what's rotten, you're doing God's work. So therefore, it's nothing bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's very dangerous. Another book that is not surprisingly banned in many, many countries all over the world is Alice in Wonderland. Again, coming from that British tradition of showing us that there is another dimension, that there is another world, like Lord of the Rings, like, C.S. Lewis with, War of the Worlds, right? I mean, he wrote that shit. And it's crazy. Like they showed us all these possibilities. George Orwell showing us how politics would behave and develop. C.S. Lewis, how technology would develop. Lewis Carroll, how, fantasy and everything would, where would go, the mushrooms, drug abuse and all that. It's very interesting that they laid out a map that was then played out by all powers. They somehow predicted or programmed culture.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I was sitting here looking at that 432 page just a little bit. I dropped a link in the chat for everybody. So
right. Absolutely. Check it out.
Copy and paste it. Go read into it all the more. Do some research because it is one of the most fundamental things. Because the point that I highlighted right before we moved on was the thing about supporting physical and mental energy levels and the totality of the body. Because it just says how we were mentioning. It just reflects exactly what we had said. Was listeners feel more energized and vibrant after listening to the music 432 hertz. And that's be due to the frequency alignment of the body's natural biorhythms, which might enhance overall vitality and the ability to maintain energy throughout the day, which, that's what I'm saying is like we were talking about exactly what this whole list is, because once you actually start kind of, giving yourself over to being a part of nature rather than dominion over nature, which is one of the things that's in Lord of the Rings is like, you're supposed to be a steward to the land.
Yes.
Not try to overtake it and rape it and pillage it. Basically.
Yeah.
Also, how he
You
was
have a duty
describing
to
the architecture of the elves, right? And the architecture also of the dwarves. Everything was connected to nature. It was functional design, right? It was integrated, and right. And the only
organic
ones,
and the inorganic, but
Right.
the humans. Here's the thing, right? People forget some. The humans are specifically the descendants of the Numenorians, right? They were special because unlike the tribes of lesser men that had no idea what the fuck they wanted to do with the land, they saw the land and had a vision, right? And they shaped it to fulfill that vision. But yet, if you look at the Numenorian architecture as it's described, or as you see it in certain adaptations, like even Minas Tirith, right?
right?
Yes, it sticks out like a sore thumb. Obviously, it's not integrated into the mountain like you would
But
see in dwarven architecture, but it has this otherworldly grace to it, right? That is just, yes, you know it's not part of the mountain, yet it's somehow perfectly balanced and seamlessly fits, even though it does not belong, so to speak. Right?
I mean,
Like,
it's
not naturally formed. They altered the shape to enact their vision.
If you
Yeah.
he was, inviting us to think about using the resource of nature in a healthy way, so that architecture is not it's dominating over the landscape, but it's integrated into the landscape. And so, yes, Minas Tirith has that sticky, but if it's leaned into the mountain, it's shaped out of it.
Yeah, it's a part of it. It's not
a part of it,
separate.
and so therefore it kind of contains that thought of mimicking also your environment. And if you look at the great artists in architecture like Frank Lloyd Wright, they were following the Tolkien concept, right? Wright created this marvelous architecture where he used also like warm materials like wood and nature stones, like beautiful ones. But the way he was placing his buildings into the surrounding, into the context, most famous, of course, the waterfall building, is amazing, right? That's what an architect, in my opinion, should do. Of course, it's beautiful to see these heroic sculptures sometimes of glass and steel, and there are some buildings that are appealing, even if they're not super integrated into the landscape. But we like architecture, also the Tatarian architecture, right? The so-called Victorian or neoclassicist architecture, right? From the 19th century, with ornamentations and elf-like people in there, and little details and beautiful work, where the ornamentation and the decor was part, though, also of the carrying structure of the building. That's what made these structures so beautiful to watch, right? And this is what they also eliminated, right? Beauty out of our city landscape. And again, Tolkien was always pushing for beauty. He was always hammering, right? This idea of, hey, we as people, we identify through beauty. The more beauty we create, the more beautiful we become.
Right. Well, I think there's also something fundamentally profound in the writing of Tolkien, where the elves, are also the Uruk-hai, and so you go from either being, the most pure, enlightened, naturalistic beings,
absolutely,
to being ultimately corrupted, and being like the thing that's going to destroy, and it's just bent on that concept and that conceit, and it completely just devoids itself of what divinity it came from, and just becomes stuck in the surface layer, and so it just becomes kind of brutish and very just prone to, like, they were designed for war. And so that in many ways speaks to the more that we move away from our divinity and our actual natural connections, the more that we take on these industrializations of systems and things like that, the more we industrialize ourselves, the more that we fall prey to that capacity.
Like, and the thing is, so I want to mention something because I know you highlighted that comment of mine, to give some context, right? In terms of, I always found it fascinating. It's like a random sudden realization that occurred. I don't think Tolkien intended it for it to be as meaningful as it is to us now. But when you think about it, right? The whole, literally, Minas Tirith and Minas Ithil, right? There are two white towers built into the respective mountains, and in the middle is the city of Osgiliath, which used to be the capital of Gondor for the Dunedain before they well, changed into Gondorians due to mixing with other races of men. But during that time, right, the unified kingdom of the Numenorians, they had their capital at the center, and in between the center were two white towers as beacons, right?
Right.
I find it ironic that due to the hubris and the degradation of Numenor after they lost their respective kings and lines,
Right.
that they lost one of their sacred white towers to basically, in the most insulting manner possible,
Yep.
because it was literally one of their own in the most
Yep.
corrupted state ever,
Right.
corrupting one of the white towers, making sure it falls into ruin, and then that one same individual, the Witch King, by the way, is also the one responsible for bringing half of the capital of Osgiliath into ruin, and then the rest afterwards and turning it from a beacon of beauty and unity of the world of men into just a constant battlefield where no beauty can grow. It's just literally war and terror constantly.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah. Interesting.
I just thought it was just a
Yes.
random spur of the moment inspiration, but it's very poetically weaved in a very subtle way into the
Right.
narrative, right? Like if you read Tolkien, you have to think about the fact that this man was also a very avid poet, not only linguist but poet, and this
Yes.
man loved ancient poetry and how the words
in
could have-
writing in my mind there's nothing Tolkien wasn't. He was the absolute, like, he's the Michael Jackson of writing. I don't know how to describe it. He's really the king, like, because the way, like, you could say, well, did he really program this? Did he really know? But you know, if you look at the amount of research he did, the languages he created just on the side, the things that he thought about,
You
like
don't fill
grammar.
yourself with that much information without learning something along the way. You know?
It's you know what, and he put everything, like every word is calculated in Lord of the Rings. There is not one comma, not one thing that is misplaced. Everything needs
Right.
exactly to be where it is, and so therefore, you know, this is also
a
the
cathedral
unity.
of sorts.
It's exactly. It is architecture. It's like frozen music. It's crazy. Like the more you read it, the more you understand that it's just a description in itself that tells you already what to do, what principles to follow, what values to uphold, what things to. But he's almost not commenting. He's neutral. He just shows you, and then you make your choices. Of course, he describes people and entities in a certain way, so you understand like how he wants them to be portrayed and on which side. But then again, he leaves it completely up to you. And this is the magic and also the power of it and its humbleness. Like he goes on to explain to you a complete different world with a set of rules that is totally different from ours, with characters that are fantastic. And nonetheless, he teaches us a very human lesson.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
And one thing I do want to say, like near the end, like just to give you an idea how sometimes Tolkien just will come up with some concepts. I think I told this to Coach multiple times, right? But this might be interesting for you, John. So one of the inspirations as to like explaining the downfall of Numenor, right? Like I remember there was a fan that asked Tolkien in a letter one time, like, what led you to get that inspiration? And he basically answered by saying, oh, well, you see, one day I had this recurring dream, okay, that would torment me every day of me standing in a open green field with the sky out, but then all of a sudden I would see a massive tidal wave and it just submerged the entire landscape completely, just swallow it whole.
Right.
And he kept having the dream for so many days that after he wrote about it in his notes, and then he used it as inspiration for the downfall of Numenor, that's when it went away, right? So that
you
is
think
something.
you think that's pride ultimately? What he's
what?
Why is the downfall happening?
I
Is
think
it
it's
pride?
So the downfall
serendipity,
of
to be quite honest.
Numenor, like the downfall. Okay, so if you guys didn't know, in the Silmarillion, the moment when
Oh my God,
the
Dragon
period-
Slayer can now show off the Hulk. What have I done tonight? I'm sorry, guys.
In the Silmarillion, sir, the section where they detail how Eru Luvatar sank
I'm here
Numenor
for it.
as punishment,
I
right?
do it. I love it.
He called it, well, the English setup, it was as he called it, was the downfall of Numenor, but I think what was it called? I think it was called, let's see, downfall of Numenor. I think it was called the Aka. Oh my God, hold on, I can't fucking remember.
Oh, you type fast, man. That's incredible. I heard.
What?
Yeah, man. I heard you typing so fast on it.
Yeah.
Oh, there we go. Okay, this is called the Akayabeth. Okay, so basically, so like so a lot of people call it the downfall of Numenor because that's like the description of the chapter. But but Numenor, okay, the elves in Quenya called fallen Numenor after it sank into the ocean in Atlantis style. Okay, they called it Akayabeth or Atalante. Okay, which is funny because Atalante, Atlantis.
Also, if you look at the shape of the overall shape of Numenor, right?
It's exactly the similar shape as
It's the
as
star,
Atlantis.
right? Yeah.
But
and-
in Atlantis, here's the thing, right? So in Atlantis, though, there was, I believe, how many royal families did Numenor have again? I think it was 5 of them. Oh man,
oh man, you're getting old, Dragon. You're getting
bro,
old.
fucking hell,
You
man.
have to look this shit up, really.
It's been a while. Since I read
Slightly,
I read that shit when I was 14.
He's been surrounded by
motherfucker.
uncultured.
slightly disappointed,
you know,
man. What's up, man?
I read this shit when I was 14. But
Oh, good, man.
no, but I think there were actually, now I think about it, so there were actually 22 lords, or I do know there was one royal line, but they may have been 6. I think one for each point of the star, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think so. You had the center family and the because
the royal
right.
bloodline, the royal bloodline that was in God damn it, Armenelos, if I remember correctly. Fucking hell. See, these names, fucking Tolkien, okay? But trying to remember these names, guys. But basically, they had about 6 royal families, which is interesting because in like the stories of Atlantis, they were saying there were 7 royal families. And remember, the number 7, very significant in occultism, to signify perfection in all realms, in all realms in the beginning
I'll
of
show you the
spiritual, right? But but think about it. Numenor only had 6, and the Numenorians were unmatched master architects, to the point where even elven architecture and dwarven masonry could not even match them at their height. And remember, again, in occultism, the 6th density is the realm of the architects and the record keeping, aka Akashic records. I'm just saying, maybe he wasn't aware of everything, but he sure gave a lot of people a lot of ideas.
I think he was whether he was aware of it or not, he was attuned to it.
He was.
It was resonating with it. Yeah,
right. It's kind of like the way David Lynch, when he makes movies nowadays, there's some stuff that he's had these film snippets for years, and he didn't even know why he had them until one day, just kind of like, oh, that's where this goes. And that's kind of like when you talk about this reoccurring dream, and then it finally ends after he writes the thing. To me, that's like cosmic serendipity kind of playing out, manifested state.
Right. This is, by the way, the logo of the Fabian Society. Was founded 1848. 1884.
Look at that, black and white.
So it's the black
obvious.
wolf that is coming out of the white sheep's, camouflage. It's mimicking, right? It's strapped
Wolf in
onto
sheep's clothing.
Yes, exactly.
The fact they were so brazen about it is the funniest shit ever. Like, they were so aware that people were so ignorant that they could just
I thought that was
put
funny.
it out in the open.
Well,
Simplicity.
that's one of those things about seduction and deception that I was mentioning last week with magic. You go and you put the thing right in front of people so they look past it and they try to
Yes.
see beyond.
The most
And that-
yeah. The
Right,
way to
right.
conceal something the best is to present it the most obvious, right?
Right.
Speaking of 9/11 and all that.
Right, which is why when I said last week there's more honesty in fiction than truth in the news, that's quite literally why a lot
Yes.
of this
Yeah, I
pretext
agree, yeah.
planning that they have for things that play out
Right.
do happen in movies. I think it was
it's part of the culture to influence us, and I
Right,
mean
there was that-
we've shown this also. Like the deep state deeply collaborated with these also called rock stars that were just put together by these families in order to exactly do that, to start this culture, because through that culture they could implement these ideas.
Right. And the more they can keep the people at this level kind of confused,
Yes.
specifically,
Right.
and kind of corrupted,
Right.
and unable to like have that natural divine connection that we've been talking about, like the
Right,
moving
right,
everything from 432 hertz, all that kind of stuff. The more they can do that,
The
then-
60s really, it was a takeover by all these satanic groups. Like for the first time they demonstrated really open like what their idea was, and through the 60s and through that music they could flourish. Let's not forget, Charles Manson once in an interview said the music that influenced him in killing all these people, it was the Beatles, it was the White
Right.
Album, right?
Right.
So it's
Right,
interesting.
you're talking
guys.
about like the 60s is kind of like one of the big explosions and proliferations of the media
Yeah.
state,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
just the way that it
Yeah.
kind of like when we talk about like when did pop culture really begin?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. The
That's
whole
that's
trend.
kind of
The
yeah.
whole yeah. Like, and it stopped. Now it's very interesting, right? The 60s gave us cities like London, New York, and these big trendsetters. And now they disappeared, all these towns are not just financial centers. They're just consuming, they're not producing any trends anymore. Because now the narrative has also shifted in the way they're operating. They don't need that. They have now finance and tech that is keeping people busy. Music is now just the external conundrum to make the party flow, but it's
Right.
not relevant to their culture anymore.
And music really isn't even music these days. You
No,
look
it's
at
not- it's not.
Most if you look at the mainstream recording artists, like there
Yeah,
are
yeah,
still
exactly.
you can actually still find
Absolutely,
legit
there's
musicians and all that
legit
kind
and
of
beautiful,
stuff.
right. To all the beautiful professionals out there and musicians and artists that also follow us on this channel, this is not against you. It's just the media.
Yeah, no.
The
The
distribution
media
of
complex.
what they're distributing is garbage. Is just mental humiliation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guys, it has been a fantastic conversation.
Definitely.
I mean, like we covered so many bases. It was truly like maybe also we derailed a bit too much, but hey.
It worked out in the end. Okay,
It
that's all
is.
that matters.
It is what it is. I mean, this is what conversations are for. It's organic, and they're still part of the entity of the discussion, right? So they are all just kind of manifestations of what the issue is that we talked about. and
Believe
how-
me, at least we didn't talk about a movie because that shit would have gone longer.
Yes,
Yeah, like,
for sure.
and sometimes you need a little bit of upheaval in your life
Yes.
so that you can
Yes.
actually kind of rebound and kind of reassess and move forward. So I don't really think so much that was a derailment. That was just kind of like
Totally
a hard
agree. It was
transition.
yeah,
Yeah.
a part of the conversation. Dragon Slayer, take it away and give your outro.
Yeah, no, guys, again, wonderful live stream. I think everybody should be able to learn something from, all the random rants that we may have said, all the tangents. It doesn't matter. There's always something you can learn out of every single situation. And remember, okay, by learning, you add more flavor to your life. So don't be afraid to move forward and take the first step, because at the end of the day, okay, yes, the first step is terrifying, but the second one is scary. Then the third one is uncomfortable, but then the fourth one, you're used to it. Okay? So remember,
It's a good breakdown.
take it one step at a time. Enjoy the journey, not the destination. Okay? Because when you get to the destination, you'll just get thrown to another journey. Okay? It's the never-ending fellowship of life. All right? So remember, guys, enjoy every aspect that you can of your life. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Subscribe to Dragon Slayer commentaries, of course. Just got to type in my name in the YouTube search bar. Do not worry. One day we will get actual mods to put the links down to make our lives easier. But until then, type in my name in the search bar, and in the About section of my channel, you will see all the links to my socials. I am working on some videos right now, especially since I have a couple days off due to Thanksgiving holiday. Everybody, by the way, happy Thanksgiving, because guess what? There's a lot to be thankful for. But other than that,
Absolutely.
that's it for me.
Indeed. My good man John, take it away.
Yeah. So yeah, specifically, like, the journey is living, the destination is the dying. And so so definitely take all the joy you can in the journey itself, because we're all destined to die at some point, and that's not like necessarily a terrible thing, but it is a thing. And so, enjoy every step on the way to getting there. After the show, or at some point in time, if you guys want to mod me with my FFS Discord, I can easily drop links for everybody's everything. But yeah, beyond that, for my stuff that's coming up tomorrow, Ryan and I are, as he mentioned, we're doing an episode of Rising Stars, specifically focusing on women that are, notable and should be supported, especially, women that actually, think through discernment and kind of like a little bit more than just being NPC thought bots. We should always take time to give them a little bit of grace and latitude to kind of move forward. And other than that, and I think we're doing that at 4 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, so it'll be 1 p.m. Pacific. And then normally next day on Thursday, I'll just get back to doing Will of the Fans for the morning shift at 9 a.m.
Cool.
Yep. And then reality based this week on Friday is actually going to be an off week, I believe. Ryan is just going to be doing his own thing on Friday. And then I'll be on Honey Badger Arcade on Saturday as usual. And then the other thing I really enjoy doing, like I get this every week now, and I also get on Sunday, the Who TF Live. So I get to talk about this is gonna be a great week, because I got to talk about
you're incredibly
Lord of the Rings.
busy, man.
Yeah, dude, I got to talk about Lord of the Rings today, and then I get to talk about Doctor Who. Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Right. But then on
Bollywood's
Sunday,
latest new creation, Lord of the Rings. See, I told you.
yeah, no. And then, like I said, on Sunday, I got to talk about Doctor Who. The only way that this week would get better is if, for some way, we could actually cram. Actually, I did talk a little bit about David Lynch here, so we kind of got some Twin Peaks in. But yeah,
true.
Yeah, and so we will be doing reality based this Sunday. The aristocratic. God, I can't even talk today. The aristocratic utensil spoon will be our guest on Sunday.
Oh, Lord.
Nice,
right?
And
And then I'll be off. My one day of the week that I'm off will be next Monday. So I'm working like a concentric loop all the way through. And it's a holiday week. I don't take time off. I just keep adding to it. And then we'll be back here again next Tuesday. Along with my Will of the Fans I do in the morning. That's pretty much my next week.
Nice.
And beyond that, I just say, as I often do, safe travels ahead. Have a wonderful week going forward, and be awesome as always.
Where can we find you, man? Don't you want to?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I got.
You talked for 12 minutes, and you did give us your handles.
Well, here's the thing. You can go to Problematic White Guy, but I haven't put out a video. Well, technically, I inadvertently put out a video yesterday for 3 seconds, but I haven't made a video in over 3 months. So people can support me by coming to these wonderful channels and things like that, and just kind of it's like we were saying. I try to grow slow. I want people to actually get a better sense of who I am, rather than just,
right?
Because I'm an odd character, to be fair, right?
Really?
And so
we all are at this point.
Yeah, right. But the point being though is I've got.
How so? I mean,
well, I mean, I used to work in porn. I think when you go by the name Problematic White Guy,
I'm an actor, so
you tend to kind of throw up a few kind of flags for people, and they're a little bit apprehensive about you in general. So the idea is to kind of get people to understand that Problematic White Guy isn't me saying that I'm the worst person that you can encounter. No, it's I'm Problematic White Guy because I live in a problematic world that has cast this thing on me, and so to kind of disassemble what all that is, and kind of how do you navigate through this insanity. a lot of that is just done through general good conversation right now. And so if people want to go to Problematic White Guy, see some of the stuff that I've made in the past, you're always more than welcome to. But until I get my tech kind of sorted out, I'm really just kind of like doing these conversations on everybody else's channels and, kind of getting a little bit more in tune with being able to meter my speech for long and for short term kind of stuff. I say that after 12 minutes.
It's really interesting.
But yeah, no, things are good.
Cool. Guys, it's been a blast and a pleasure. Let's see if next week we can make it happen, because it could be that after 2.5 years, I have an opening for something that is close or let's say similar to a mini vacation. It could be like that. I get like 4 days. Yeah, I know. Yeah, it could be. So I'm truly excited about it. So it could be that I'm gone on Tuesday, but I'm not sure. It could be that we're also starting on Wednesday. So let's see if we can make it next week. I strongly think so, but I'm just kind of giving us this preamp warning. Otherwise, it's been a blast, a fantastic pleasure, a great meeting, a wonderful conversation. If you'd like to know more about the services of the COACHMC studio, how we could potentially help you as an actor, a performer, as an artist to step up your game, to see a different career trajectory, to audit your material, your portfolio, to maybe assess a new, tactic that you want to apply to your skill set in order to really boost your impact in this wonderful world, because it's really up to us. Like this conversation has shown us, it's about to us to like really collect the best information, to implement the most efficient actions, and to make something interesting and valuable and appreciative out of our lives and nothing else. And this is also the quest that we're facing every time we come together for the 3 Sages and a Time Machine. Otherwise, you can check me out on readytoperform.com and send me a mail, a message, a DM me, and tell me what your plan about your artistic future is. And we find out in a discovery session if we're a great match for each other, and if we are, we take it to the next level and start a great artistic adventure. It sounds like a deal, right? We should absolutely kind of think about that. Otherwise, guys, thanks so much again. It's been a beautiful, very interesting topic. See you with the next episode of 3 Sages in a Time Machine on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Otherwise, catch me on Saturday Night Hypnosis and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Thanks, Dragon. Thanks, Problematic White Guy. Thanks to the creative community. The chat has been fantastic tonight. And yeah, see you soon, guys. Now, you're truly ready to perform.
Indeed. Be well.
Indeed.